Downtown, I got that heat. Let's go.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Salute, Moose. Salute.
Oh, man.
What is up, my friend?
Lots of things going on today. That's why I was like, Cha-Cha, we got to do this. We got to do one.
I don't think you guys understand how powerful the Moose is. We have a Moose sighting, ladies and gentlemen, on the weekend. Saturday stream, Moose. You pull in the power moves, man.
I was literally telling Sneed, I was like, we got to talk about this, man. This is too critical.
It really is, bro. It really is critical. I mean, we don't just do Saturday streams for nothing. Yeah. You know? How you doing, Moose? What's new in your world, man? Everything good?
Man, there's just so much to talk about. There's just too much good stuff, today. That's why I wanted to chat about it, wanted to get your opinions. I know we've been talking offline. There's just so much.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, there's probably 2 or 3 things I want to discuss in today's show. One is going to be obviously home broadband, home internet. There's a couple of things we want to discuss. There's probably a few avenues we're going to take around it. So it's going to take us some time. I'd say probably a good, 20, 30 minutes to really dig in deep on it. Mm-hmm. And the news just came across. I guess it's basically official internally. T-Mobile's leaving Best Buy. So we kind of have confirmation of that. So we can kind of do that story too, Moose, if that's cool.
Now that's interesting. Why would they get out of a national retailer? I don't get it.
Don't you have to pay to play in those spaces?
So they don't want to pay. Damn.
I mean, what do you think?
It's unbelievable because you see, right now we're in a really weird time in the wireless industry, right? For the US anyways. We are seeing this resurgence of bundling, right? Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is you have now 3 fixed wireless options. And by the way, cable has been doing this for many months now, right? That they've been doing this bundling in the wireless industry. It's called convergence, right? Mm-hmm. You have a home internet product, you have a wireless product, and then you have a third product. That could be TV, that could be a streaming option, right? In the case of Verizon, you have the Play Plus, right? That you can pick whatever. They have wireless, they have fixed, right? They even have fiber. T-Mobile has fixed, very little fiber options, but it's coming. Wireless, right? And they also are giving you a lot of perks, right? MLB TV, YouTube TV, a lot of options. But to get out of Best Buy, very interesting. And this is, by the way, 1.5 months before iPhone. Very strange timing.
Wow, interesting, because the distribution would have been easier having the extra retailers, right?
Exactly.
And now that means Verizon and AT&T are basically playing in their own park. Just the two of them,
Yeah. And that's going to be also interesting too when you think about it, right? People go to Best Buy, people think of, I'm going to get my TV there. I'm going to possibly get my phone there because they have better trade-in deals, right?
They do, man, and
Right.
and so you're getting a better deal on a phone, and you might even get a better trade-in.
Exactly. So I don't understand why they're doing this, right? If it's a money issue, that means that probably they didn't get enough from their from Best Buy, right? From
They
a,
were looking for
you know,
something more, right?
exactly. From a gross ad point of view, it wasn't good enough. So then they were like, I'm pretty sure the negotiations were like, hey, we're not getting as much as the other guys. You guys need to charge us less. Best Buy was like, no, 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 no. You're a big player now. We're not going to charge you less. You guys are not selling enough in Best Buy. That's what that clearly means, right? That, and then that could be a case, Chacha, that, you know, Verizon and AT&T are doing better in Best Buy than T-Mobile. And I'm not going to be surprised if next is Costco. T-Mobile's going to get out of Costco's.
Well, that's crazy because they just got in Costco.
Yeah, but they also just got in Best Buy.
But the Best Buy
Yeah.
situation is unique because it was because of Sprint.
But you know what's interesting?
Historically,
Yeah.
T-Mobile was never in Best Buys. There's known documented issues between John Legere, the former CEO of T-Mobile, and Best Buy. They had a
Yeah.
falling out. They couldn't get an agreement. By the way, let's just call a spade here. Legere was ridiculously difficult. He was difficult with root metrics. He was difficult with Best Buy. He was difficult with a lot of people. The only people he seems to be adorned by is the consumer who, made the move over to T-Mobile from AT&T or Verizon because of pricing or whatever, contracts, whatever. But Moose, it's like a different thing. I think what we're looking at here is
Mm-hmm.
we saw John Fryer and his team at T-Mobile realign the whole retail operational plan, right? Right.
Mm-hmm.
We saw them close stores. We saw them rearrange with Metro dealers. We saw them, lay off a ton of Sprint employees. Like that stuff's been going on. So this would just be part of the plan, possibly. The reason why I think they're willing to kind of experiment was they already had the Sprint existence within those retailers. So they kind of let it ride for a little bit as they made their transition. Now they must feel confident that, okay, we tried. This isn't to our liking. Financially doesn't make sense for us. Let's get out. People will just get to our retail stores and we'll deal with them within our own retail space.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
It's I think it really goes back to what you've been saying, right? Is that I think that T-Mobile wants to control the full end-to-end retail experience, right?
Yeah, but to me, that just means they want to hit them with a lot of fees.
Yeah, but maybe
You
that's
know
the
what I'm
case.
saying?
Yeah,
Because the fees
yeah.
are more, you see more of the fees at the T-Mobile retail space as opposed to Best Buy. I guarantee you there's at least two, if not three fees that T-Mobile can apply to accounts that weren't able to be applied at Best Buys. And that's why people were choosing Best Buys.
Hmm.
They were probably dipping and dodging, sidestepping some of those fees. There's got to be at least two or three moves, right? Isn't there's a standard activation fee, right? Then there's also a like a SIM card activation fee, or not the SIM card activation, that other one, the one for like in-store service. Like T-Mobile's hitting you with two or three right off the bat, bro. So
Dang.
if you go to T-Mobile within a Best Buy store, I think you're sidestepping a couple of those, man. What is that? What are you saving? $50 maybe?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I didn't know that they did that many fees, by the way. It's been a while.
It's at least
But
two moose. There might be three.
wow.
If because I've done videos on all these as they've occurred, I just kind of stopped counting, and they're all new. They were things that did not exist 4 years ago, 4 years ago.
Hmm.
And this is why I think a lot of the legacy T-Mobile customers have moved away from upgrading devices through the carrier. They've gone with the OEM. They've gone with Amazon or whatever. They're not messing around with the carrier themselves. Let's look at the details of this move. According to the T-Mobile report, T-Mobile and Best Buy go way back. And by way back, we mean just about 2 years ago. So you're right, Moose. You said it was very recent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the partnership and extension and expansion of the agreement between Sprint and Best Buy, right? So that's kind of what I was alluding to. But ending the partnership with Best Buy, the retailer will not offer the carrier services through its stores anymore. First entering their contract with Best Buy back in 2021, and they're going to be phasing it out over the next several weeks.
Mm-hmm.
T-Mobile's landing page from the website will be removed on August 31st. 2 weeks later, on September 14th, the retailer will end all exchanges and activations within the stores. And then from the period encompassing September 15th to October 1st, which would be the following 2 weeks, only returns will be allowed. Everything entirely will be shut down October 1st, ceasing all connections and links between T-Mobile and Best Buy. There it is, Moose.
Yeah. So, like I was saying, it's just very interesting. You know, right before iPhone, literally, you know, um, to me, it's unbelievable.
You think it's
Um,
bad timing? You think that's a bad move?
I think it's terrible. I mean, think about it like this, Chacha. We are, let's see, approximately 3 weeks away from the announcement, right?
Yeah,
A
we're
lot
close.
of a lot of blogs are saying September 12th, right? Because of it can't be Labor Day, right? So it can't be the Labor Day week. So, a lot of blogs are saying September 12th, right? And it's assumed, right, that the launch is going to be either the 22nd or the 29th. I'm picking the 22nd, man.
Well, production's starting to scale in India, and China's been cooking, so they've got some supply, I believe. Probably. You're probably right, Moose. So do you think, we've been talking about like the device upgrade rates and how they've been slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw like with respect to how service revenues are playing out, we saw like equipment sales are down, right? So the upgrade rate, people are not
Mm-hmm.
buying and upgrading phones as frequently anymore. We've seen the rate
Mm-hmm.
going up in consecutive quarters. I mean, how much less is how much less sales or conversions is T-Mobile going to see now that they're not going to be in Best Buy? I have to ask the question is how profound was Best Buy as an upgrade destination for customers, or are people switching from another provider going to T-Mobile in Best Buy and doing their business there? I just don't know. I've always so when I used to go on Best Buy, and we're talking about years ago, Verizon was always very busy and AT&T was very busy. T-Mobile
Mm-hmm.
had a segment within there, but it was prepaid, right? And then Sprint
Mm-hmm.
was the other company and they had their display as well. So like I don't know a world at Best Buy with T-Mobile in it. So to me this is not really a big deal, but like I've been out of Best Buy as a customer for a long time, but I used to upgrade it, through Verizon back in the day when they had 2-year contracts and stuff. Um, this is interesting timing, Moose. I think you're right. I think
Mm-hmm.
they probably should have rode that train through at least October, but they probably, Best Buy forced the hand and said, "Look, we need an agreement. We got to
Mm-hmm.
know how to proceed moving forward." And T-Mobile was like, "All right, well, we're out." They weren't going to give them a month-to-month deal, Moose. They were looking for like
Mm-hmm.
a multi-year deal agreement.
Yeah, I mean, it's just very interesting timing. I mean, the other thing that I'm thinking about here is, you know, sorry, not Verizon, Best Buy devices are all unlocked, right?
Are they?
From the last time that I looked into it, yeah, I mean, they're pretty much all
So if you
unlocked.
buy it even through a carrier, it's still going to be unlocked?
I believe so.
So if I
Yeah,
bought an iPhone 15 up and coming release,
right.
it would be unlocked, but I could just instantly activate it with any carrier?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is that, like, I believe the Best Buy ones are unlocked. Um, obviously the policy of Verizon is they are unlocked after 60 days, right? I think T-Mobile's the same way. So, that's the
T-Mobile's lock policy is after it's paid off. 40 days on the network and
interesting.
has
I
to be
thought that
paid
they
off.
changed that. Yeah.
No, that's T-Mobile's policy. I don't think it changes just because it's Best Buy, does it?
Mm, we'll have to do a fact check on this one. But I'm
AT&T
pretty
is the
sure.
same way, the Verizon's got their policy, 60 days on the network and boom, it's unlocked. Yeah,
Oh,
so
so
this is probably going to surprise some people. Somebody's going to go in there and be like, "Hey, where's the T-Mobile joint?" And it ain't going to be there, man. David says they only sell locked phones. Oh, nice.
yeah, so we have to definitely check into that because if I remember correctly, they do sell unlocked models, right?
Right,
So
but you're not going to buy it associated with a carrier deal,
right.
in
So
order to get the unlocked model, because then the iPhone is basically an Apple Store
right,
type deal, right?
right. So yeah,
Yeah.
very interesting timing on that one. Now the other thing that I was gonna ask you on though regarding T-Mobile is these terms of when Charlie is purchasing the spectrum, right? The 800.
The 800 megahertz.
Yeah, if I was reading correctly from light reading, uh, Mike Dano, right? He was saying that they're gonna buy it next year, but they
They want
agreed
an
to buy it.
extension. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I think they want to do, Moose? They want to buy it as soon as they hit some kind of like a retail presence and the network is basically done.
But
Because Moose,
yeah.
there's going to come a point where the money's going to be completely spent. Like it already happened, and they had to go digging for more money. I mean, I heard Charlie Ergen was in the Middle East, bro, talking to the Haboobs trying to get more dough in the UAE. Dude went to Dubai looking for cash, man.
Damn the
Yeah, bro. And then we heard that about the merger with EchoStar, which he's the majority shareholder for EchoStar and Dish. So
Mhm.
what he can do there is he can kind of leverage EchoStar's balance sheet and I think get some cash that way. He could probably squeeze a couple of $1 billion out of that company in cash flow too.
Yeah, that's literally what the EchoStar deal was for. All cash. It needs a cash infusion.
And then that can help finance the rest of the build, reaccelerate that, and then he can hit his mark. He doesn't want to get fined for not hitting it and then not being able to offer that. I mean, at least have the functional network, hit the 75% requirement, and then get your retail going. But like retail's not good right now,
Mhm.
right? We don't really have a presence. We don't really see, a vision,
Mhm.
so that look, all of this is just like him trying to find time, buy time. Charlie's out of time, man. These were things that should have been considered in 2016. While he was buying AWS Spectrum, he should have been thinking about what am I going to do with this?
And by the way, will the FCC allow him to license or lease, I should say, some of that spectrum for cash? The emergency AWS that was given.
You would have to get special approval. It clearly says within the
Hmm.
terms of these agreements that it's got to be a facilities-based operation.
Hmm.
Being a holdings company and then subleasing. I mean, who would he lease it to? You think T-Mobile wants to give him money? Can I
I wouldn't
rewind
think
back to 2
T-Mobile.
years ago
I think
when
AT&T is interested in doing that. Think about it.
for what, AWS?
Yeah, that 20 megahertz boost in New
They
York
gave
City
him
was huge.
AWS, remember, during the
Yeah,
pandemic?
that's right. That's what I'm saying. It was a huge boost. Now, here's the other thing, though, right? Um, Charlie, it was very close to the Rakuten CEO. Remember
Oh,
Tarek?
The
Yeah,
ORAN
the
guy?
ORAN thing guy, right? Yeah. Something interesting happened recently within the last 2 weeks. That guy's out at Rakuten.
Is he
He's
a
done.
free agent?
No. I know he's a free agent, but what I'm saying is that he's done with this vision that he was doing of ORAN and all this other stuff, right? Or sorry, not ORAN, virtual RAN, right? Where it's like any box can be used, right? So it's going to be interesting. Charlie could pick him up. He could. But, right, I still feel like the traditional model that the other three carriers are doing with either Ericsson, Samsung, or Nokia is eventually going to end up being the situation for Dish in the future. Because right now they're stuck where they're at right now.
You
You
think
know,
ORAN is going to be a failure?
they've Rakuten in Japan has been losing so much money.
Yeah,
I
but it's
don't.
not because they're doing ORAN.
I honestly feel like it's because they're a fourth player trying to disrupt the market, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's just not working.
But it's not because they're ORAN, it's because of other business-related things.
Correct. But just like we've seen in business cases in MBA schools, right? Even if the technology is amazing, but the business cannot continue, it's going to be seen as a failure.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to talk about it, right? Because that guy's now a free agent, and the vision that he had was a huge vision, right? I think he
Charlie
could.
was very close with them. He spent several days with the company and kind of seeing what they did, how they do things, and kind of building his network. And he was in India too, and I think he
Right,
was seeking counsel there too.
right,
And how they're going to do their business model and their network model.
right. Now, here's the other thing, though, Chacha, that I wanted to chat with you about as well. So this is all Dish related, T-Mobile related, right? Um, and the piece about T-Mobile is only because they're still stuck with the kind of like this,
Having to sell it.
having to sell this thing, and then also, and by the way, right, Dish has roaming partnerships with T-Mobile and AT&T, right?
Yeah.
Um, you know, going back to that conversation that we had about AIA and Spectrum and how much is good enough. Personally, that Dish network is good enough for a lot of people.
It
Right?
really is. Yeah.
It's enough, right? But nobody knows about it, right? Not
It's
enough
also a
people
lot.
know
It's
about
also not large enough yet.
it. Right.
It's not going to stand alone. You're going to need AT&T.
Right.
Yeah.
So what my thing was is like Dish is an option for people like those consumer cellular folks, right? Those um over the age of 55 or even over the age of 60, right? I feel like if they finally figure out their marketing strategy or retail strategy, whatever you want to call it, right? There's going to be a segment of the market that would be perfect for Dish, right? But here's the problem. If Dish isn't reliable enough in terms of calling, in terms of coverage, building penetration, whatever you want to say, these 55 or older will just switch back to Verizon or to their other carrier, you know?
Just can't be bad.
Hmm.
People start having negative experiences with it, they'll leave. They'll say, "What the hell's the point?" I'm going to switch away from the standard MNOs and try this, and it's junk or not good. I mean, I'll tell you what, from a business standpoint, Dish probably wants their customers to be on their native network 90% of the time.
Hmm.
I think even being on it 70% of the time still doesn't make business sense. It's got to get closer to 90% of the time. Because you're paying backhaul, you're paying for a 10 gig circuit. You've got all these tower agreements, all these leases.
Hmm.
So what? So they can be on AT&T and then you got to pay those gigs? Hell no.
Hmm.
So the network's got to get bigger. The network's got to get better. I think the 800 megahertz gets them that coverage and some capacity boosted on those edge cells. We know their network is spaced out. It ain't dense, Moose.
Hmm.
Would you describe the Dish network as being dense? I
Well,
mean,
I
it's,
mean,
it's built on a 600 megahertz,
right.
tower grid. And not to say that their AWS isn't good or putting CBRS on air wouldn't be a boost. You're just not, handing off midband like we typically
Right.
see in suburban and urban with the big three.
Right.
So the experiences, and then, handoffs between the two networks could be a little bit sketch. Voice over NR is a problem, Moose. Can we all agree that voice over NR is not ready, and we've seen nothing but problems at Dish and
Mhm.
T-Mobile with voice over NR?
So this goes back to the same conversation that I had with folks um, back in the voice over LTE days. Remember those days, right?
Yeah.
Um, you need a long frequency spectrum to really have a good voice over NR experience when you go from um, cell site to cell site, right? But not until we see band 12 or, T-Mobile's, band 71, right? The 600 megahertz, I believe is the closest, right? Because Verizon's, just to give you a perspective, right? Before C-band, right? Their band 5 is not everywhere, right?
Band 5
So,
is, bits and pieces across the
exactly.
nation with different companies.
Right. So that would be their primary low band right now. That would be on an NR situation, right? So it's very few and far between. So they would have to refarm 5 megahertz of band 13 to really have a great tower to tower experience on voice over NR. I feel like this is a conversation that is going to be a first half, maybe second quarter 2024. I don't think voice over NR is going to happen this year for Verizon or AT&T.
They're just gonna have to wait till it's better. I mean, we're talking about
Yeah.
first responder networks, right, Moose?
Right. Right.
It's just
You know,
non-negotiable. You just can't it can't be negotiated. You can't say to a first responder, an agency account, "Calling's gonna be a little bit suspect from time to time." No,
right.
non-negotiable.
Right. Like for example, Kian on the chat is asking, AT&T or Verizon for SoCal. This is exactly the same thing that we're talking about right now, right?
What is like,
Because
from a coverage and network performance standpoint?
right, exactly. The call quality, the cell site density, and I was in SoCal, as you know, right, last week, got back this week, back to Dallas. Um, if you're purely talking about a data situation, right, there's still a lot of cell sites that Verizon has yet to upgrade. That's a very tough situation to be in, right?
Mhm.
And then it also depends on what do you mean by SoCal, right? It's a huge part of the
What would
you
you
know
say, Moose? LA County and the surrounding counties?
So, SoCal market, when we think about it, right? A lot of people think only from San Diego to LA on the,
But how far can you go up to still kinda count it?
technically, SoCal is still like Lancaster, right? That's like the top end, right?
Okay, okay.
Lancaster.
So,
And then,
basically what, within 50 miles of the Bay Area?
no, 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 no. Like,
100 miles? Within 100 miles of the
uh,
Bay Area?
I would say probably like 75-mile radius from downtown LA.
Okay,
Right.
gotcha, okay. So,
That's
it's basically within a couple hours of driving, right?
right, exactly. Like
Okay.
2 hours in any direction, east, north, or south.
Because that
Right.
pushes you close to Nevada, doesn't it, if you're going east?
If you're going northeast, yeah, it's like 3 hours, and then you're now in Nevada, basically, right?
Vegas? Yeah,
Exactly.
gotcha.
So, but this was like a great segue, right? The C band upgrade for both Verizon and AT&T
We
is
gotta talk about this,
oh yeah.
Moose. Okay, so, let's just address the elephant in the room. How game changing has
Mhm.
80 megahertz, 100 megahertz of C-band been for AT&T, 100, 140, 160 for Verizon? How game changing is it for the customers?
So let's put it into perspective, right? Verizon went from 60 megahertz to 160, right? So
Mhm,
an additional 100.
mhm.
AT&T in the majority of the C band, except Dallas, right? We'll get to Dallas. Went from 40 to 80, so double for AT&T, and T, and then 100 megahertz more for Verizon. This is game changing. Like if you were going to say what would AT&T and Verizon have to do to catch up to T-Mobile, They've already caught up and they already surpassed. I'm calling it how it is. I'm
I
calling it
don't
how
know.
it is.
I don't know, Moose. That's a bold claim,
It's a
man.
bold claim, but I'm telling you right now, second half root metrics, they're gonna have to redo the first market. You know which one I'm talking about, right? It wasn't it uh the Kentucky one, right? Was it Lincoln that the
It
first
was Louisville.
Louisville? Yeah. So
And then we
Louisville,
got
yeah.
Charlotte too. That's done.
So see, so Louisville and Charlotte need to be retested. So I'm waiting for the first half report now from Root Metrics because it's that game changing,
Yeah,
right?
it predates the bandwidth increase.
Right. We're going to see in LA and New York City when they're doing their testing, and you'll see the dates in Root Metrics, just how drastic of an increase. Because, by the way, right? T-Mobile and Verizon are the only ones that have a significant amount of home internet usage, right? From
Mhm.
their fixed, right? Only Verizon got the speed boost. T-Mobile is not getting a speed boost until they apply the C-band panels, right?
Yeah, but the T-Mobile situation is like it's like a stitched up blanket. You
Right.
got all this fragmentation. They don't have uniformity to C-band. They don't have uniformity to DoD. So you're looking at those things as situational. Some markets are going to be, getting C-band and DoD upgrades for T-Mobile, but that's not even really starting till next year at earliest.
So that's another thing we got to talk about, right? T-Mobile is not getting faster unless they get 10 gig backhaul on every single cell site,
Yeah,
which we
that's gonna
know.
be that's
Yeah.
gonna be something they have to emphasize moving forward.
But we know that because they're so frugal in their operational expenditures, right? Their OpEx, we're not going to see 10 gig backhaul on every single cell site.
Wait, how are they gonna deal with SoCal? That's crazy market share for them.
So SoCal market share, right, is above 50%
That's
from a
crazy.
T-Mobile perspective, right? So that tells you right there, they're trying to load up a network with fragmented mid-band spectrum, right? You're going to have additional fragmentation because you're going to have C-band from a coming in next year, right? But it's going to offload a significant amount of users, right? That are going to, I'm going to call it how it is, dog. N41 is congested. I'm telling you right now, it's congested. Okay, people are not going to believe me, but we already talked about the decline from a cell site doing a gig on the down, now doing less than 100 in peak times because of all that damn fixed wireless.
Damn.
That's huge. You're you are using 90% of your capacity simply because of fixed wireless. Now, people are going to say, from a corporate standpoint, that's perfect because we are utilizing all of our spectrum to monetize because that's the name of the game that people don't understand. You're not supposed to be getting a gig on the down on a speed test to your phone. Your phone cannot use 1 gig download. That's just straight up capacity,
What's
right?
the best case scenario? You got a phone that connects to the network. They're gonna download a game. It's 2 gig size. It's one of those
Mhm.
like Call of Duties or so whatever.
Right.
Yeah, the 2 gig gets downloaded, and then it's the device is done, right? It's gonna be taking baby sips on the network the rest of the
Right.
way.
And see, here's the thing that to answer your question directly, what is enough? And that's really the topic of why we're talking about this, right? Chacha, is that what is enough speed that you need on a mobile connection? So I
In
mean,
2023,
right?
I don't think many users are not getting enough. I think 99.9% of users are getting enough. And the only reason I didn't say 100% is because nothing is 100%, right, Moose? But
Just
like I
like
would say that 99% of people always have enough.
Elon Musk, right? Said it perfectly. He's like, you cannot. There's never a situation where it's an absolute, either 0% or 100%. It's never an absolute, right? There's always going to be 0.01 or 1% or whatever, that in certain situations, the and you can apply it to anything, but in this case, we're talking about, wireless, right? Talking about spectrum and
But we
speed.
can speak in generalities with
Right,
respect to the majority, right?
right.
Mhm.
99% of the time, if you are in a decent coverage area and you're connected properly, you're gonna have everything you need from now
Yeah,
on, from all networks, right? But
pretty much.
the issue is if you overload that sector with too much fixed wireless, fixed home broadband situations, it is going to affect your mobile experience. Even though we know that the fixed home internet usage is at the lowest possible priority.
Moose, let's talk about fixed wireless specifically, the
Mhm.
capacity requirements, the needs, and then let's talk about like what Verizon is doing, what T-Mobile is doing, and now what AT&T is doing. Can we do that?
Yeah. So, and by the way, there's a couple things in the chat here, right? Folks are saying, um, AT&T might be the new dominant, uh, carrier in terms of the speed. Let's see here.
I think there's some markets, Moose, where that can happen.
It's possible.
I think it's relative to budgeting. What type of budget
Mhm.
is allocated for that market? Dallas, I feel like, is one of those markets.
Yeah,
Detroit,
Dallas.
Michigan, I think, is one of those markets.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
Philly.
I think,
Yeah.
yes, Philly, some New Jersey markets.
Hmm.
I feel like those are some of the places, Pittsburgh. Think about the fiber
Hmm.
footprint, think about the CRAN build out, the macro grid, the densification process. I think all those are in play.
100% agree. I mean, a perfect example, right? Chacha is this, right? Detroit, with only 80 megahertz, is doing 1.3 gigs.
Ericsson
Damn.
gear,
Nokia.
Nokia.
It's even crazier.
So that's
Like,
that
damn.
that's 100% connected to the density. Has to be.
Density,
The fiber and the
10
density.
gig backhaul everywhere,
Yep.
right? Because it's AT&T's own fiber network. See, this is the reason why we go all the way back to John Donovan days. His vision of, I want all my cell sites to be on our network because that was his vision, right?
He knew he would win.
Exactly. And guess
Yeah.
what they're doing now? The same situation. 75% of the network is going to be on AT&T's fiber backhaul, right? Imagine
Mhm.
once 100% is, or as 90% is. This thing is going to be
Majority, yeah.
massive.
I mean, they're approaching that. I think that's the end game is to get as many sites on it as
Right.
they can.
And with
Um,
the gigapower, by the way, that is possible. That
that
is going to
opens
be
up
possible.
the
Yeah.
possibility of covering entire markets with it for
Yeah. But now
sure.
let's go back to what you're saying, right, about fixed.
Okay, 1 second, Moose. Let's
Okay.
pay some bills.
Yeah.
Okay. So on the screen, you guys are going to see some different ways that you could support us here on the SMT YouTube channel. One thing you could do for us is buy us a coffee. Keep the SMT caffeinated and motivated. Link is in the description for that. And big shout out to anybody who's been hooking up the SMT with coffees. I know recently it was Dusty last night. So that's a good way to support us. There's other ways to support us too. Those links are in the description. Also, if you're looking for a good deal on wireless service, you can get it from our partner, Mint Mobile. You guys know the Green Fox. He can help you save money. Using our partner link, the deflation promo still seems to be active. $15 a month for any of their plans. Guys, jump on it if you're looking for a way to get access to the T-Mobile network, but you want to get it at a really good rate. This is the best way to do it. All right, so mintmobile.com/Sneed. Unlock those savings. The activation process is actually super easy. They'll ship you a SIM card really quickly if you want the physical SIM, or you can activate on eSIM. It's very simple and very easy. And lastly, the last partner I wanted to speak to you guys about, and this will be the last one, and we'll get back to the show and the programming, and that is SNHU, Southern New Hampshire University. If you guys are looking for a new career, one that can reward you monetarily, offer you, I would say probably almost guaranteed employment, right? You're looking for high conversion rates, a school that's very flexible, right, when it comes to tuition rates, converting credits from other schools, flexible terms, right? They've got it for you. So get yourself in on the online BS program using our partner link. It's down in the description. And you guys can, get the information from the folks there and learn more about the program and how it can kind of jumpstart you into a new career. All right, Moose, what I'm going to do is I'm going to I want to pivot to the fixed wireless piece, right? We got Verizon, who is trying to scale 5G home internet to the tune of 4 to 5 million. That's their customer acquisition target. T-Mobile's looking at 7 to 8 million. That's their target. Where do you think AT&T possibly wants to end up with respect to internet air and kind of like how many customers they might want to put on the service? Because the way I look at it is they're not going to do what T-Mobile and Verizon are doing, which is just get as many people on it as possible. I think theirs a little bit more calculated. The Stank Man said, we want to be surgical. We view it as a tool. He's even gone out and said, we like it more as a business use case. But let's be honest, man, the consumer wants this service. They would love to get away from DSL. They would probably love to get away from Spectrum and Comcast, because cable's explosive pricing and, lack of reliability or downtime or whatever the case may be. Where do you think the AT&T internet ends up with respect to subscriber numbers and uptake in the near term?
I'm looking up from the quarterly earnings really quickly to see how many DSL customers they still have left, because that is a good indication of what they want to do, right?
Bruce, it's like 20 million, dude.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. From those 20 million, how many are going to get fiber, right?
It depends on the time frame.
Right. Let's say hypothetically 50% are going to get it within the next 2 years, right? 50%. Actually, that's pretty aggressive. Let's say
I think it's going to be closer to 10%.
yeah,
Moose.
10%. Let's say 10%, right? So 2 million more customers are going to get fiber. Okay. So there's 18 million customers that are going to be in a situation where, and by the way, Stanky said this, and I think Pascal also said this in one of the conferences. They are going to be shutting off unprofitable central offices. What that means is customers that currently have access to DSL are going to
getting cut off.
They're going to be cut off and be migrated or forced to go to AT&T Internet Air, right?
They're going to send them a gateway and they're going to say, this is your internet.
Exactly. Now, this gateway, I've been testing it when I was in SoCal, right? This is another reason why I wanted to have a chance to chat, right? Live, because we've been talking about this every single day since I was over there, right? It's a solid product for a particular type of customer. And I'll tell you what I mean, right? For the majority of customers that are going to be using this service, think about who they're targeting, who AT&T is targeting these customers for. We're talking the replacement product for DSL. That's the key. I want to make sure that we're in the right scope of mind here, right? So your speeds need to be between 50 Mbps and best effort on QCI 9, right? Which is probably around 450 on the.
Well, Moose, I'll be honest with you, man.
Yeah.
QCI 9, just by that label, is
Yeah.
less than ideal.
Of course.
Right? There are going to be a lot of people who are, well, let's put it this way. For the network tech enthusiast who understands QCIs, understands quality of service, the network management is going to have to be impeccable to maintain a QCI 9 that is going to be enjoyable and a good experience. AT&T is going to have to get clever. They're going to have to be very judicious and careful about how they do the network access.
So yes, and I definitely have some feedback, right? Because I've also been talking to the Cha Carlos, right, about this. So Okay. Keep in mind the timing on this. And I've been like, damn, you were absolutely right when you called it. Watch what the carriers do, not what they say, right? That's the quote of the SMT since day one, multiple years now, right? For many months, AT&T was saying fixed wireless is not a big deal. Don't think about it too much. Blah blah blah. We're not going to get involved, right? C-band goes from 40 megahertz to 80,
And boom.
and boom, we are now seeing so much capacity on AT&T's network. We have people in the chat saying it's over a gig where they're at. What do you think AT&T is going to do? Because as you know as well as I do, when a mobile subscriber is getting a gig on the down, there's a problem.
Moose, I would argue that if a site is doing 600 at peak, we got a problem.
Now that's even more aggressive, right? That's even more aggressive, right?
If you got 600 at peak, that's
Right.
excess. That is
Yeah,
proven excess.
right. You have, several thousand connections and you're still at 600? Damn.
Let's talk about an upgraded cell site, right?
Right.
An upgraded baseband, a 10 gig fiber circuit, 100 plus megahertz of spectrum. That can all be monetized, Moose.
Right. Now that's why, you know, going back to what we were talking about with the whole T-Mobile situation, right, where that one cell site was doing a gig on the down, right, and then now it's doing less than 100. That technically is the perfect argument that what Verizon and AT&T want to do, right? They want to monetize their spectrum to the max.
To the
However, to
max.
the max. But the problem is that what is that fine line? That's why it's always, what is the necessary amount of bandwidth you need to a mobile connection so that it doesn't interrupt what you're doing from a mobile perspective, right? Because you're going to always have consistent download from those fixed wireless. Tyrone just posted a video of his T-Mobile home internet, and compared to how it started when he originally got it, it did decrease significantly.
He also
However,
moved, so he's on a new cell, right?
right, he's also moved, so he's on a new cell. So it has decreased significantly, right? The speed. But once again, for the amount of usage that he's doing, I'm pretty sure it's good enough, right? The same situation is going to be for this Internet Air product. If it's replacing, if the ideal scenario is to replace DSL. Now, here's the thing that I wanted to share with you, right? There's going to be a significant amount of customers going to this AT&T Internet Air that are on Spectrum because it's a better option than T-Mobile, because either the cell site is not nearby, they don't have enough, good enough signal, or the same situation for Verizon. Verizon's cell site is not looking at their house or their neighborhood, doesn't have a good enough signal, right? Perfect example is my parents' neighborhood, right? There is a AT&T 10 gig backhaul site with both DoD and C-band 3.7, right? 80 megahertz, all sectors, 10 gig backhaul. That thing is flying, literally. Insane speeds, even though we know that that sector looking southeast has a significant amount of AT&T customers. Significant. And it's still pulling 800, 900 a gig on the down with over 150 on the up.
Mm.
Like from the beginning, that cell site has some of the best upload performance I've ever seen.
Moose,
Right.
but that's the new norm.
Right.
I'm not trying to like tell you something new, but every
Yeah.
single site here in the CLE, if you're within a half mile outdoors, you're getting 100 plus megabits uplink. If you're
Right.
indoors, you're still around 50. I mean,
Yeah.
that's new. That's game changing, because the problem was you went inside, you'd get off of midband for uplink. You're probably moving to a low band where you have just a small percentage of that bandwidth, right?
So absolutely. Absolutely. Um, that's why going back to what people are saying, like some people in the chat here, I'm reading it. Um, you know, the strategy is still fiber. I'll tell you that right now, because even Sneed just said it a couple minutes ago. The vision of having 75% of your network, your own fiber, is the key to make all of this happen. Because unlike AT&T and Verizon, right, both of them are getting there, right? Verizon's going to be at 50%, AT&T is going to be at 75%. T-Mobile has zero native fiber. They have to constantly renegotiate these deals to get better rates on their 10 gig backhaul.
And in a market where you have 50+% market share, it's
Yes,
non-negotiable. The 10 gig fiber circuit has to be the standard.
they have to. In SoCal, like a perfect example, SoCal is the number 2 market for T-Mobile. Possibly now it's number 1 in terms of overall
Is
subscribers.
NYC still number one?
Yep. From my understanding, NYC is always going to be number 1, not only from a injection of money, right? Capital expenditure, but also because they want to go toe to toe with Verizon in their home market, right? And they have successfully done it now, right, for several years. But anyways, let's go back to SoCal. SoCal, as you know, right, Chacha, we've been tracking this for many years now, is primarily Hispanic market, right? It's a primarily Hispanic market. Most of those folks don't have a home internet connection like Spectrum, right? Because that's the like monopoly there, right? So what they do is that they either hotspot their phones prior to fixed wireless, or they just use their phones for everything, right? Now that they were upsold with this fixed wireless situation, right? Just like in Huntington Park and all these other critical cities in LA, the speeds have drastically gone down in a lot of sectors.
How would you like from a material
Mhm.
standpoint, could you quantify the decrease in the speed?
Well, I'll give you guys a perfect example. We just got the announcement of Modern Warfare 3 launching on November 10th. Okay? Prior to November 10th, they will start the early access slash the early download for the game, right? We've already seen that in multiple new seasons of Modern Warfare 2, so like on the patch days that are on Tuesdays, mobile networks drastically drop in speed because people are pulling multi gigs of data, multi gigs. Just to give you a perspective, the latest patch was 88 gigs.
Holy smokes.
88 gigs was the latest patch, not the game. It was a
On a
patch.
fiber connection, Moose, does that take 20
Oh,
minutes?
dude, it took me only 2 minutes and a half to download 88 gigs. That's it. Done. I was up and running, right? 5
Yeah.
gig backhaul, right? Even with the gig is still enough, right?
Yeah,
But
flexible.
with fixed wireless and everybody else doing the same thing, people got fed up. And I guarantee you, because I know this as an example of what happened, right? I know a guy that got so pissed off at Verizon Home Internet because he was crawling at zero point 0.01 kbps. Goddamn, not even Mbps, kbps. I haven't seen that since dial-up days, man. He shut it down. He got Frontier Fiber 1 gig. He's like, I'm never having this experience again. So he went from 500 and he got an even higher, more expensive package because he wants
But he's
to
probably glad
guarantee.
because of the experience.
Right. So,
And you could see why the consumer oftentimes equates speed to quality.
right. Because guess what? The connection to Verizon was not the issue. It was a very stable connection, 5 bars, even C-band. But again, the C-band got congested.
This was pre-bandwidth increase.
Correct. Pre-bandwidth
Ah,
increase. However, even with the bandwidth increase, what are we talking, right? It was only going to be probably,
a couple hundred megabits per second,
yeah,
maybe.
a couple hundred. It was too many people downloading at a time during patch day. He took
Sheesh.
the entire patch day, literally 12 hours it took for him to download the
So he
patch.
could have gone to work, he could have came home, made dinner, took a nap, got
Right.
up, went to the gym, came home, and the download was still going.
Americans are used to instant gratification, Chacha. Instant, right?
Yeah, but that takes infrastructure.
It takes infrastructure and it also takes money. And what I mean by money is both from the provider, capital infusion, and you have to pay to play, right? You always told me that I'm no beta, right? Nobody should be a beta, dog. That's why I keep going
I
back.
think Moose, I think the gamer,
Right.
looks at fixed wireless access with major skepticism.
Absolutely.
I think
100%.
I think the TV streamer can definitely consider it, but I think the gamer, I think the content creator, with the exception of millimeter wave, man, it's a tough sell, man. It's tough.
See, the big issue that I see, Chacha, is this. People have to understand what they are buying, right? This Internet Air product for AT&T is a DSL replacement. If all you're doing, like my parents, right? I told you this. My parents are max doing 2, maybe even 3 streams of DirecTV stream at a time max, right? So what is that? That only needs realistically
20 megabits, 25
20,
megabits.
yeah,
Yeah.
20 to 25 Mbps. And that's guaranteed because they have a C-band site, 0.2 miles away, giving them, 600, 700, 800 a gig on the down, right?
Yeah, maybe they connect a couple of smartphones,
Right,
which are gonna sip on the data a little bit, but it's just yeah, it's gonna work for them.
right. So now here's the interesting part, going into more detail technical on the AIA product, right? The AT&T Internet Air. So the egg, right? You and I are pretty, we're laughing about it, right? Because it looks like a huge egg, right? Um, the device itself has some pretty good network managing on it,
Some tools.
right? And one of the things that I noticed when I went into the firmware was that it picks up cell sites that are significantly further away, right? Um, and it's doing intra-carrier aggregation very well as well. But something interesting that I noticed is that the network management from the cell site itself is very unique. And what I mean by that is that okay, we already know that it's on QCI 9, right? For a network enthusiast, you would never want to stay on QCI 9, all times. That's basically like prepaid,
On a
right?
mobile carrier, unless you're a light user, you would probably care.
Right, exactly. Right. And by the way, everybody that listens to the podcast, listens to the SMT is more majority they're a network enthusiast. They're not, the type of people that are going to probably get this AIA product, right? They probably try to get fiber if they could, right? But it worked out. There's some times where during peak times you would not be connected to the C band on the AIA, on the egg, right? But you would not see a slowdown, Chacha. You were
Keep cooking.
streaming. Go ahead.
You would just keep on cooking.
It would keep cooking, even though you do a speed test and you were doing like 85, 150, 200, no problem, right? The lowest I ever seen it go was when it was connected to 15 megahertz of band 5 and you were getting 45 to 60. And then you start thinking, wait a minute, whoa, this seems too low. But then you think about it and you're like, is my stream buffering? No. Is my phone still connected to Wi-Fi and loading the websites relatively quickly? It's still doing that. So the only thing that they can do to improve the service, in my opinion, man, is honestly to reduce the ping time, right? Because in a
But you
speed
can do
test,
that. You can do that through QCI management.
correct, and
And
actually,
especially with network slicing and kind of next level 5G advanced features.
right. And by the way, that's another thing that I should mention, right? Is that when I did a C-band test from my phone, right? It was doing um 18 ping,
It's good.
right? And in peak times, it was doing 750, right? On the down.
Peak downlink?
Yeah, on
Peak time?
peak time, peak
Wow.
time. Now, I did a speed test with the AIA, the egg, right? Ping times were about 60. However, right? Did I notice when I did, like a website search? No, right? It was still
So
pretty
what
low.
happens? I think one thing to consider are the loaded latencies.
Right,
So like, are they staying within about 5 to 10% of the threshold during
right.
off peak? Because what you're going to start to see is like loaded latency spikes. So say for example, Moose,
Mm-hmm.
loaded download latency is 500 at 8 a.m., right? But at
Mm-hmm.
8 p.m., if it goes from 500 to 1,000, we have a problem
Mm-hmm.
because that's going to impact some of the experience because it creates these little spikes, which could impact how the network feels as you're using it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So if they can stabilize it, if they can keep it stable, the QCI 9 piece maybe means a little bit less. I
Right.
think that's going to be huge for AT&T because in my experience,
Mm-hmm.
based on the structure, I think AT&T has the most sophisticated QCI.
And we've
I
talked
think
about this.
I
Yeah.
think T-Mobile's is the weakest. I think it is
Right.
the most poorly designed QCI, and that's why the home internet is so poor when there is any type of demand on the network.
And by the way, we need to talk about this again, right? I still doubt that T-Mobile has a sophisticated enough QCI management compared to AT&T and T and Verizon.
I think it's the weakest of the 3.
And by the way, we got to re-educate folks because there's been new people coming into the podcasts, right? They don't even understand what QCI is.
Yeah, they gotta go back and watch the catalog videos.
There's so many videos that Sneed has done to explain what a QCI is. This is ridiculous, right? Basically, what it is, okay, it's not a network slice yet, right? But this was the original concept,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So prepaid users, uh, starter, um, what's the new thing from Verizon? The Go plan, right? Or the welcome
Welcome,
plan?
welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, the welcome plan. These are examples of what we're talking about as QCI 9. The very bottom, right? The very unprioritized whatsoever. You are not getting any special treatment. You're actually getting less speed because you're
So then
paying for
really
so
what
much.
we have to say, Moose, is
Yeah.
the baseline QCI is 8.
It should be 8. But
Yeah,
in
the
some,
baseline
yeah,
QCI is 8, and
right.
then the subject to network management and depriority is
Hmm.
QCI 9.
Right.
The first
And
one to be network managed.
right. So QCI 8 is the baseline, right? That is an industry standard. We all know about this, right? Is that is the it's considered quote unquote best effort, right?
Mhm.
Um, when you talk QCI 9, what most carriers do is if it's a simple like QCI, it's like half the speed of QCI 8. So half the baseline, right? But in AT&T's case, even with half the baseline, you're still doing a significant amount of speed. I mean, I've seen Cricket users, man, they're doing 800 on the down.
Huh.
Still crazy, like on C band, right? It's
Yeah.
like, what the heck? So QCI only matters when there's a significant amount of users on the cell site, you know, because you do pay to play, like Sneed has been saying from day one.
So
You-
AT&T's got their most of their consumer lines on QCI 8.
Right,
They've got most of their prepaid on QCI 9, most of their MVNO and prepaid.
right.
They
Majority.
have most of the business lines and their premium lines are on QCI 7. And then agency, first responder, those types of accounts are on QCI 6.
So that's where we got to talk about the higher levels of QCI. To see, this is why I get excited, man, because it's like
It's
this
cool. Yeah.
is this is what people want to see, but unfortunately, people again, you got to pay to play, right? So QCI 8 was considered the baseline, right? That's like the what's the middle plan for Verizon, Chacha? The
Well, now they have the Welcome Unlimited
right.
and they have the Unlimited Plus.
Okay, so the unlimited plus, right? Because there's still one higher than plus, right?
Not on the consumer side.
Oh, I see. So
Yeah.
they consolidated to 2
Yeah.
plans. Okay.
Yeah.
And is that confirmed that it's QCI 8 or is it 7?
Yes, QCI 8 for but this conversation we're having is only for LTE.
Right.
Because once you get into the 5G ultra wideband for Verizon, so you have QCI 9 for their prepaid and MVNO. QCI 8 is for their consumer lines. That isn't the entry level consumer, because that would be also QCI 9.
Right.
So and then QCI 7 is designated for some business customers
Right.
and first responders,
So
and agencies and stuff like that.
one thing to note though, because I asked my buddy about this, QCIs still have an impact in a non-standalone 5G environment,
100%.
right? So
100%.
on AT&T, you still have QCI management in the same 4 levels, even on 5G NR, right? But in a standalone situation, totally goes out the window because now we're talking slicing, right?
Well, so
Um,
that we kind of have our first slice at Verizon. I don't know
right.
how AT&T is playing it, but they might not have done it yet. But
Mhm.
Verizon has created QCI 7 for 5G ultra wideband.
Interesting. Very
So
nice.
so that kind of creates a bit of a slice in a way. So if you're on a plan that has 5G ultra wideband full support, you're basically in that lane
Mhm.
whenever you're connected to it, right?
Right.
You're not subjected to QCI 8 or QCI 9. You're in the 5G ultra wideband QCI, whether it's millimeter wave or it's C-band. It's the same.
So let's go a higher level, right? If we're going from baseline, right? You alluded to it, QCI 7, right? On an AT&T perspective, it's on the elite plan, the performance plan, right? The top
Yeah.
consumer plan, right? And
Right.
actually, majority of business plans start at QCI 7, right? It's like if you're paying for business pricing,
You're
right?
there. You're right.
You're already there, right?
Mhm.
Um, that's like the benefit, right? That carriers like to say for business customers, like, hey, you're a business customer, you deserve higher level QCI, right? Now, what's interesting is that the business elite plan, still to this day, Chacha, and you know this because you've experienced it as well. The business elite plan is still the premier rate plan out of any carrier because that is guaranteed always QCI 6 because you're paying for it. It is a significant markup compared to the QCI 7. But you know that thing cooks with gas. Like Sneed likes to say. By the way, I love your phrases, man. I gotta spice them in more often. But you're cooking with gas, nitrous, nitro. You press the button right on like Needs for
Mhm.
Speed, right? The movies. That thing hauls, and because even Stetson, right, in his comparison videos, there is a significant increase when the cell site is congested. You know, it's like double the speed in most cases from QCI 7, right? It's all because of network management. Any comments on this one, Chacha?
I think AT&T has the most philosophical, intricate, intuitive QCI system. I think theirs is the best. And they have got a very capacitive network. It allows them to be very granular and
Hmm.
segmented with respect to plans, priority, and pricing.
Right.
So they can kind of monetize features, I believe. And I think the network slicing, it ultimately is the end game for this moose.
Hmm.
Because you're limited to what the core of the network can accomplish,
Right.
which is going to require some SA and stuff like that. But yeah, I think T-Mobile needs to make a transition ASAP. They need a
Yeah.
complete overhaul on their best effort data. I
Oh
mean, you
yeah.
got people showing speed tests on Metro. It's like identical to Business Magenta.
There's no, and we've had this so many times, right?
How do we live in a world where that's possible?
You even did an expose on this. There is no QCI on T-Mobile if you
I
have.
I I don't get it. I really don't. And Moose, my bigger issue, and I've talked about this in another video and another live stream. A free I don't even want to say it this way. Let's do it like this. What are those network pass?
Right.
A network pass hotspot, right? Like
Right.
that data, like let's say you're hotspotting it or something or
Right.
whatever. The lowest connectivity on the network pass on T-Mobile that's free, no charge, has priority over a paying T-Mobile home internet consumer.
See, this is why
Has
I keep.
priority over the Magenta business consumer, right?
See,
Or
this is,
the
yeah.
business home internet. Bro, you can't be serious.
See, this is like, I don't want to compare them this way, but T-Mobile's like a communist network, man. Everybody's the same,
But my only problem is you have people paying a premium,
right?
not getting the premium.
That's where it's
I think people
ridiculous.
deserve a standard of service. I mean, it's in the name, Moose.
Yeah.
QCI, quality cell indicator, QoS, quality of service, an expectation, a
Mhm.
baseline of expectation.
If I'm paying $100 or even $80 compared to a prepaid person that's paying possibly less than $40, right? When you have it bundled with a family plan, why would I not get better service than that other guy? Doesn't make sense. And here's the other thing. We got to talk about this because I get very passionate over this. If I'm getting a free line, Chacha, why would I get the same QCI as somebody that's paying for their line?
Dang.
That doesn't make any sense. You
What about
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
T-Mobile home internet customer who's paying 60?
So that's even crazier, right? T-Mobile home internet customer that is always deprioritized, guaranteed, right? Compared to the mobile user. And we know that the mobile user only needs a certain amount of data, right?
Moose, it's happened where a T-Mobile home internet customer is chugging along, everything's fantastic. A freaking carnival pulls up the street from their home, and they don't have internet for 3 days.
It's
Think
ridiculous.
about it, 3 days on the weekend, so the carnival's in town Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I've literally had emails from people telling me, "I haven't had usable internet for 3 days."
Doesn't make any sense, man. And by the way, not to mention that
But the free line's cooking with gas, though?
T-Mobile.
They gotta figure that QCI out. They need something else. Whatever they're rocking right now, I mean, look, when I'm considering fixed wireless access, home
Mhm.
broadband, 5G, home internet, mobile users, I mean, T-Mobile's growing, dog.
And here's
They
the other
add
thing.
lines, man. That's legitimate network usage demand.
And Chacha, all this stuff that we're talking about, QCI 9, QCI 8, QCI 7, QCI 6, every time you build a QCI, that costs money, Chacha. Every time you build a network slice, that costs money.
What are the resources? I mean, how much time, effort, skills, knowledge, experimental design, and engineering goes into that QCI?
We're talking about months. That's why the vision that AT&T had back in 2016, 2017. Remember, we're talking about 5, 6 years now, right? Because that's when the FirstNet contract was signed. That was a guarantee that the first responder will have a totally different network experience.
They really do, though. It is
And
that. Yeah.
unfortunately, there's no guarantee that T-Mobile's quote unquote first responder network or first responder plan has the same level of preemption, prioritization. You should be, if you're a first responder, Chacha, I'm telling you right now, I'll ask them if I'm ever in an ambulance, are you using FirstNet or Verizon? Because if you're using T-Mobile, might as well let me die. There's no guarantee, dog, that I'm going to be going to the
Oh,
hospital. I'm telling you right now,
wow.
it's that bad. I would never, you never bet on a horse that there's no guarantee the reliability, right?
So I don't understand that. I see advertisements and commercials, like Cali Field and business
Mhm.
solutions for T-Mobile,
Mhm.
talking about like unique solutions and stuff. Like, what are they speaking of? Because it ain't slicing, it ain't QCI. What solutions are they bringing to the table? Right?
T-Mobile never invested in their network the same way that Verizon and AT&T have. And we've said this so many times. We've said this, as one of the concerns that we as a community had against the T-Mobile company buying Sprint. Sprint had a better QCI than even T-Mobile. They had a vision. The only thing that was missing was the funding, the marketing. Sprint couldn't compete. They were trash at competing at
Oh,
the
there were
end.
so many segments across the country where the network was just so below standard.
Yeah. But where it was good, like in Dallas area, right? Sprint was hauling.
Yeah, it
Sprint was
was.
actually better than T-Mobile.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, anyways, going back to the QCIs, right? So, in the near future, I am predicting that both Verizon and AT&T are going to step up and one up T-Mobile in this sense, Chacha. I bet you anything. I'm putting my mouth where this thing is going, okay? Like I'm putting my money where my mouth is right now. Verizon and AT&T are going to come out with a higher QCI fixed wireless plan
Ooh. Okay, I
for
got some
more
ideas,
money.
Moose. I got some
Okay,
ideas.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, let's go with that. Do we see, and this is completely your prediction,
Hmm.
right? We don't know how this is going to play out. This is all just, you got me thinking the wheels are turning. Okay.
Hmm.
Do we see a unique gateway, a unique QCI, FirstNet Internet Air?
There's definitely a possibility, right? I know that today there are hotspot plans or, mobile data only plans that already do that. The only thing that needs to happen is that the quote unquote egg turns black,
We
and
need a
puts the
FirstNet.
FirstNet
We need a
logo.
FirstNet egg. Yeah.
Yeah, FirstNet egg, FirstNet logo, FirstNet equipment, basically, right?
Maybe
Um, oh,
HPUE, right?
right, right. Something, an HPUE, yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Let's take it next level. Okay, business grade egg,
right.
business grade QCI.
If I'm not mistaken, Verizon has that already, right? They have a black box, right, for business customers.
And they give a higher guaranteed rate
Right. And
of data
so
transfer bit rate, right?
that's another thing that we got to talk about, right? Do
Tiers.
we see do we see the Internet Air product for another? So right now, the promo, right now, right? It's
35
55,
bucks.
right? Then if you have a wireless plan, it's 35, right?
Yeah.
But what if, Chacha, you get QCI 8 guaranteed for an additional 20 bucks? So now the promo
Pushes you
would
to
be,
what? 55, 75?
yeah, it'd be 75 normally, but then with the promo discount, it's 55. So you have
Still
QCA
doable.
8
Still
guaranteed.
doable, right?
Okay. What about
Uh-huh.
this? What about for 95 base price and 75 with the discount? You get
I need a higher QCI.
you get QCI 7.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think about that, Chacha?
Yeah, yeah. It's you just gotta get more, continue to get more. Right? You monetize the QCI. You
Exactly.
monetize the guarantee, you monetize the throughput.
That's exactly why this QCI conversation, when you talk about it from a T-Mobile perspective, T-Mobile does not have the functionality to do what we're talking about here. They can't monetize their internet product even further, even though they would love to, because um, the core network was not designed to do that. They're just a marketing company, man. They're just a marketing company. If they thought about this the right way, they should have been investing an insane amount of money on QCIs because QCIs are easily translatable into network slicings in the future, right? That's what they should have been doing since day one, Chacha.
but they were specifically asked about network slicing and QCIs 2 or 3 quarters ago at the earnings report, and Eugene sidestepped it and said, "We nothing going on right now. No comment."
Terrible.
What up, Los?
What up?
My man. Where have
What
you
up,
been?
I
bro?
was asleep, bro.
God damn, Cha-Cha.
I was working. I was working till 5 in the morning.
Man.
Sheesh.
We're talking about QCIs. We're talking about the egg. We're talking about, potentially, in the future, you know, the egg has like a higher QCI plan for, more monies, right? Per month. I mean, there's anything's on the table, man.
I'm on the egg right now.
How is
Damn.
It's
how is it?
working. I mean, you tell
Yeah.
me, I'm on it right now.
Yeah, there's no issue.
Oh,
No issue at all. And that's another thing that we were talking about earlier, right, Chacha, is that the product is supposed to be like a replacement of DSL. It's not supposed to be like a replacement of fiber, right?
No,
But
nothing replaces
well,
fiber, dog.
but it
but
works.
I have
Yeah.
a couple of people, and I have taken the product apart already.
Oh yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you this right now. It is. I think AT&T is gonna start handing this out to the fiber customer too, so then they can have it as cellular backup because it has an ONT in the back.
Oh yeah.
Wait, so if it's got an ONT, you can run fiber to it.
There you
Right.
go. Exactly. So this is
Oh,
so like in case your fiber goes down, you still have internet at your home as a cellular backup.
yeah, because
Like let's say
tower
they get
site's gonna have
let
backup power, so they'll keep cooking.
exactly in case something happens, where they have to do maintenance on your fiber in the neighborhood to do upgrades, whatever. You're never down.
Bro,
Seamless transition.
you wouldn't even feel a change. You would
Hmm.
just continue to be connected.
The
I
only
think that
yeah. Go ahead.
I think they're gonna go a step above that. I think what's gonna happen is these eggs are gonna literally be broadcasting. So whenever an AT&T phone walks by, it just connects to them seamlessly in the neighborhood. So whoever has
So
it,
do
it
what
just
big
connects
cable's
like
doing, those?
yup. That's what I think.
But then they're gonna have to boost the speeds.
Well,
Kind of do that dynamic speed boosting that we see with Comcast and Charter.
I'm gonna tell you the Wi-Fi range on this thing is
Mhm.
incredible, dude.
Okay, I just want to say the
I can go across the street.
FX2000. Los, have you tested that one from T-Mobile, the business one?
Yeah, I have it.
Okay, well, the Wi-Fi is trash.
Oh, fuck.
I know
It
that.
is it
Yeah.
is bad. Like,
Oh
I'm
my
not even
god.
joking, dog. Like, it works for like 1 or 2 rooms. That's it.
Oh my god.
Right now I'm across the street from my house, connected to the egg, no problem.
Damn.
And it shows I still have full signal.
Damn. So one thing that I was saying, right, is that the only caution, right, to the egg, and we've been talking about this, Chacha Carlos, is in an upload situation.
The throughput just
Yeah.
isn't there.
Yeah, it's not designed to do gig uploads, right? I think that this thing is designed, honestly, to appease the DSL customer for now.
How many customers, Moose?
I'm thinking, honestly, that by this time next year, I'm thinking that it could easily get to 1 million customers. It all depends on how many units they have of the egg.
Can they do 1 million customers for a couple consecutive years?
Mm.
Can we say 2 million in the next 3 to 4 years?
Just think about what we talked about earlier, right? There's 20 million DSL customers today. That's what you're saying, right? If just 10% are forced to migrate to this thing, you already have
2
2
million.
million
Right.
done.
And that's not including people who are voluntarily seeking the service to get
And
away
that's
from
another
explosive
thing.
cable.
Okay, here we got to talk about this. So, perfect example, right? I've been talking about this with Los. I've been talking about this with you, Chacha Sneed. 10% of the 2 million, 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 10% of the 2 my parents were in a exclusive Spectrum monopoly market, right? There was no alternative. But guess what? The first alternative came in the form of T-Mobile Home Internet. The second alternative was Verizon Home Internet, right? And by the way, Carlos, the T-Mobile Home Internet site now is broadcasting less than 100 Mbps on N41. It's so many people got
No.
T-Mobile Home Internet now. But anyways, now AT&T came in, the third option, right? Spectrum is going to see a massive decline, dude, in net broadband ads this quarter. I'm calling it already. They're going to probably report a net loss.
But Moose, they had a net loss last quarter.
Yeah, but it's going to be bigger this quarter.
Because there's another player.
There's another player. Yep. I'm telling you, Chuck. Just go ahead. Go ahead.
Is this product going to be eventually rolled out to the public?
So from Reddit, and I know Chacha Carlos has some insight on this as well, but I'm just gonna report out the Reddit one. Reddit is saying that they're going to have a national rollout next month.
It's 100%. It's 100% connected to scaling the N77.
It has to be.
There's no other way. And literally, now we've got all this internet air, positive steam, full steam ahead, and it's aligned with the bandwidth increase. And we don't even know if the egg is doing DoD yet.
I don't think it's doing DoD.
Okay, so version 2 of the egg is DoD enabled at
version
least.
2. Yeah. And by the way, don't forget, right? AT&T hasn't even enabled the carrier aggregation to its full capacity yet on that.
Right.
So
yeah, right now all it does is it does PCS and 77 or 5 and 5.
Right. So the egg, when I was going into the firmware and I was looking at what bands it was connecting to, right? It connected to band 5, right? Because it's 15 by 15. Connected to band 2 because it's 20 by 20. And then it was connecting to N77. Sometimes it did connect to the AWS 66, right? But it would prefer the combo of band 5, band 2, and N77.
That's the best. That's the best configuration for uplink. That's why.
Right. And by the way, that's 80 megahertz plus 20 on the band 2 and then 15 on the 5. That's 115 megahertz of spectrum right there, man. That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just going to be a beautiful day because, see, one of the things that we've always said on the podcast, right, is until a company is in danger of losing their monopoly or their lead, right, in market share, they're not going to innovate, right? They're not going to change pricing. DOCSIS needs to come out. The 4.0, right, that Dennis always talks about, right? The upgrade, right, needs to happen sooner than later, man. Because then they can start pushing out new rate plans. And by the way, I have some insight on this. I got some interesting details from my guy at Spectrum. So what's going to end up happening once they do the DOCSIS 4.0, right, their upgrade from 3.1, it's going to take some time, but they're going to have to ask certain customers to change their modems, right? That's number one. Number two, not all areas will get the 10 gig, even though it's capable. Spectrum has
they have percentage thresholds of like their footprints.
Well,
right. Go ahead, Los.
Hey Moose, I don't know what your person has told you with Spectrum.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you what mine has told me.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
And he said that they're not gonna exhaust 3.1 until like 2028. Because you could still do 10 gig down and
but the uplink
on 3.1.
Right. It's not going to be a symmetrical situation, but it should be a nice boost.
Yeah, you could do up to 6 gig up on
They
3.1.
won't ever
So
do 6 up though, Los. Let's get that
yeah.
straight. They won't do that.
Well, that's to
If
the
you were to get
node,
a gig, if you were to get a gig uplink to your premise, you would be thrilled.
Even 100 up.
100 meg.
Yeah, even
because
100.
because the equipment hasn't even been is still being in development at the
Yeah,
labs.
there's
The
no supply
4.0.
yet, so it's not like you could say, let's
Yeah.
go ahead and start flooding the markets with it.
Mm-hmm. So my guy has told me, right, that there's going to be most neighborhoods are going to be getting 1 gig and 2 gig options, right? Most. Very few neighborhoods are going to be getting the 5 gig option and the 10 gig option, right? So I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. Fiber companies, Frontier, AT&T, Verizon, right? They're doing 3, 500, 1 gig, 2 gig, 5 gig, and very, very soon 10 gig, right? I think, if I'm not mistaken, there are companies now that are doing 10 gig like no problem, right? They're selling it. But, you know, Spectrum, what I've been told, has some of the best analytics of what their users need and what they're actually willing to pay for. So it's very interesting times, guys. But again, I feel like Spectrum is going to have a wake up call because now they have several alternatives. The customers have several alternatives other than Spectrum.
But is it upgraded versions of their competitors or new competitors?
New competitors. And so in the sense of AT&T coming into the market, that's a new competitor. But you're right. Verizon is going to be upgraded, right? So 160 megahertz is not something to sneeze at, man. That's serious,
It is.
right? You know, it's
Moose, any
yeah,
market that has a CBRS overlay, that's a game changer too.
yeah,
I mean, if you're within a mile of a macro, you can pick up CBRS. And
right,
with home premise equipment, you can get higher gain antennas. So the quality of that signal can be even better. So the downlink can be supplemented. I don't know about the uplink piece when it comes to CBRS. I don't know if that ever changes, but it's worth mentioning, right?
right. And by the way, if you really wanted to get like a enterprise grade version of like an egg or a box or a trash can, like from T-Mobile, right? Cradle Point does exist. They are now
Cradle
owned
Point
by
is great
Ericsson,
gear. Yeah,
right?
great gear. Yeah.
Ericsson bought them out, and that is straight up like a server blade, right? Like a section of a rack, right? A router, right? Basically, you get antennas in the outside of your home, right? And that thing will be able to do a significant better performance than your, you know, consumer grade fixed home
We're
wireless
talking
situation.
about 10 to 20 dB gain difference.
Oh, your quality, your noise to signal
Yeah,
ratio
your
is
SINAR will
significant
be
better.
better, your
Yes,
uplink will be better, your
everything.
downlink will be better, your aggregation, your MIMO,
Yeah,
it'll all be better.
everything, because you're gonna have MIMO antennas versus, you know, we're talking about an actual antenna array that's designed to do that versus a smaller unit that's designed to be like a replacement to your Spectrum home internet box or your BGW 210 for AT&T, right? And by the way, we got updates on the BGW 320. Oh man, every time we talk about the 320, man, that thing is so hot. Like it's so I know it's been a while since we talked about it, right? But a lot of people, Sneed, and you know this, right? People have been asking, when's the 10 gig coming, right? Um,
I mean,
it's
what do we tell them? I mean, we look at it as a situation where, the it's basically going to be just uptake to the service where you're getting, people adopting the higher capacity tiers.
so I have an
Because
update.
hardware is one piece, but do people want it? Are they asking for it? Are they taking to it?
So that egg, right? That egg has a 10 gig port. That is the biggest indication that Los even, and when Los mentioned that he took it apart, there's an ONT on it. Guys, put one and two together. The next version of the BGW320 is going to be that egg with a 10 gig port. It's obvious. But
What's going to be the max theoretical?
the max theoretical is going to be probably uh 11 gigs, or like, no, actually, hold up. It's going to have a 10 gig port plus 4 additional ports. So you can aggregate or bond all of them and effectively get 14 gigs out of it. But
Pretty damn crazy.
that's ridiculous speed. Nobody's gonna need that, cha-cha. That's stupid, man. It's
That's
like
wild. Yeah, man.
they don't even make routers or switches, I should say, that are at that
Beyond
level.
10 gig, right?
I mean, it's too expensive right now to do it. Like it's that's like server blade level grade, right?
That's all
So
enterprise grade stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, man, we've covered so many topics already, Chacha. What do you think? What else?
That's pretty good, man. We talked about a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, what's left?
Oh, there's one other thing that I think we should talk about, right? So it went from 40 megahertz to 80. It went from 60 megahertz to 160, right? You should also start noticing that you're getting 5G plus in more areas than before. And what I mean by that is the just taking the existing network. We're not talking about additional antennas. We're not talking about additional radios being added to the existing network. I'm talking about straight up the carriers are up tilting the spectrum, the signal.
Okay, so Moose, you got a couple of things at play. Number
Yeah.
one, FAA no longer a thing. Number two, bandwidth
Right.
increase, right? Number three, power increase,
Right.
broadcast transmit power. Number four, I think optimization, right? So now they're going to boost the signal to cover more range and they know where their overlap is, right? Because now they got clusters of cells and neighboring cells that are all upgraded. They can start stretching the signal around and playing with the sectors, right?
Yeah, like I see, here's the other thing too that we got to think about. Now that you have the full capacity, right? There's only two ways that you can see a speed increase now. Number one, backhaul. That's easy, right? It just costs more money. But number two, you're going to have to, and we've talked about this, right, Sneed? You're going to have to get a better handset eventually, right? iPhone 12 is not going to cut it anymore. Even the iPhone 14 is not going to cut it because there's going to be better ways to aggregate in the future, right?
Well,
With the
if we're talking about connecting to all assets,
right,
seeing that AT&T is the iPhone network,
right,
you're going to need an iPhone 15 to do what the network has the potential to do.
right,
And there will come a time where you will be in some situations where having the additional 40 megahertz aggregating between 3450 and 3700, and it'll make a difference. It will happen. So anyone who's on an iPhone 11, 10, 10R, those, it's a slam dunk. You got to get on a 5G phone.
mm-hmm.
But I think if you're also in an iPhone 12, your battery is probably starting to lose its capacity. Yeah, your phone is getting a little bit long in the tooth. I think it's an easy upgrade too, Moose, going from a 12 to a 15.
Mm-hmm.
I think a 13 to a 15, I mean, it makes sense to upgrade as well,
Mm-hmm.
but, because it'd basically be, what, 2 years old, right?
Right.
But you may say, well, I'm on a 3-year plan,
Mm-hmm.
right? So somebody might be a little bit hesitant to pull the trigger. But an iPhone 14, I think most people won't upgrade, Moose. I don't think so.
Yeah. Only the people that are on the yearly cycles, right? The iPhone
Early
upgrade
upgrade
program.
program.
Yeah,
Yeah.
iPhone upgrade program. Like I'm upgrading. You already know, Chacha. I always upgrade because I'm on that plan. But
Yeah.
I will say this, right? Do I need to upgrade every year? As a regular consumer, probably not. I think if you're on an iPhone 14 series now, you're good for the next 3 years. Seriously. You're good. There's no way I can justifiably say from a network standpoint. I'm not
Yeah,
talking
but
about
are we getting an iOS update that is going to enable N77 interband aggregation?
see this is another thing, right? So I'm kind of nervous on that because we've seen that iPhone 12 and iPhone 13 have the capabilities of DoD, but they don't enable it. Why? Why would they not
Cer-
enable it?
certification.
Like, yeah,
The,
it costs more money.
the carrier doesn't want to pay for the certification
But
of
you would
all
be
that device.
retroactively getting a certification, Los?
Yeah, basically they have to file for certification on that band, the carrier, to be able to use it. So on that
But it's the
device.
same band.
I know, but the frequency, the
Oh man.
3.45. Uh,
I think the other
so
reason. Go ahead. Go ahead.
that's what makes it a mess, bro. So, like how Verizon, with the 3.7, there's certain phones that are going to be able to only do the carrier aggregation on the 3.7. The higher 3.7 frequency, the B and C block, is just because they don't want to pay to get recertified these older handsets. So they're like, screw it, the S23 Ultra or the S23 line series will be the one, and the iPhone 14s will be the one taking advantage of A, B, and C block. The older ones can only take advantage of A block.
Is that confirmed?
Yeah, bro, of course, 100%.
That is awful.
Oh, that eventually. I mean, think about it. You take that phone and you pay for certification. Are you as a carrier willing to spend $5 million to the FCC just to get an iPhone 12 certified
Yeah, but
or
Los,
an iPhone 13?
I think the process is convoluted. I don't think it shouldn't be that process to make this happen.
Shouldn't. It
Right.
should not. Because see, this is the thing that really pisses me off, right? We know that the Pixels have more capabilities, but they don't want to enable them because of that certification situation. Remember, we had the same thing. The same thing happened with the Pixel. However, with the Pixel, if I'm not mistaken, there was a band that got enabled. Remember, a couple years
Yeah.
ago,
Yeah.
right? That actually happened. But if I have N77 gimped, like I can't get the full spectrum of it, right? In a Verizon situation, that's really messed up, man. Now here's a counterpoint to the people that were saying that AT&T should, enable, right, DoD on iPhone 12s and 13s, because I just thought about it. Why would they want to enable a phone that won't be able to carrier aggregate, right? The DoD and the 3.7? Because if you think about it, the 3.7 now is doing 80 megahertz in most markets and 100 in Dallas, right? So maybe in the off chance that the 3.7 is congested, you can migrate to the DoD. It's like it's not worth it, right? Because eventually those phones are going to be replaced with iPhone 15s, iPhone 16s, iPhone 17s, right? That's, I think, the idea.
I mean, obviously, the focus for AT&T is going to get people out of LT only phones.
Oh yeah.
They're going to aggressively hawk the iPhone 11, the iPhone 10. Those guys hanging on to those phones, SEs. Those got to go. They want to get people on these newer, wider channels.
100%. And so far, right, we've seen that 3.7 is performing exactly as how everybody was predicting. It's better performing than N41. It's performing
Fake
so much better.
fake news, bro. Neville the Pebble said that
Yeah.
you need twice the tower density.
Neville the Pebble. God damn.
Oh, have you guys ever seen the picture I have on my Twitter page?
Which one?
It's the one of Neville the Pebble where he says that, C-band is going to need 1.5 times the tower grid of N41.
Wow.
You guys want to see it?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll show it to you guys here. I'll do a screen share. Yeah, I mean it struck such a chord with me. I had to make it like my homepage picture. Let me see here. Yeah, right here.
That's
All right, so
why.
here's my Twitter page, X, and yeah, there it is. Let me zoom in for you guys. Let's get rid of us for a second. Hold on. Okay, what do you think, Moose?
Man,
Requires 1.5 times more sites than 2.5, and 2x more than AWS PCS.
we're seeing C-band go 4 miles, no problem.
Moose,
Actually,
we got 12 miles.
no, yeah, I was about to say, Los, isn't it way more than 4 miles?
Yeah, and that's without signal to noise ratio issues versus
And
it has one that has a lot
I'm
of
not
fine
even
art issues.
I'm not even trying to like throw asperges at 2.5. I just want to talk about how good C-band has been.
Mm-hmm.
So
If it
think
wasn't
about it
a
with C-band. Talk about the uplink, right?
Mm-hmm.
Average uplink on C-band right now from Verizon and AT&T. If you're within a half a mile of a tower site, you're getting 100 plus megabits.
Easily.
If you're within a mile, it's 50 megabits.
Easily.
If you're within 2 miles, you still have usable uplink at like 5 to 10 megabits.
Easily.
And I'm talking about urban suburban.
Mm-hmm.
If we go to rural, these numbers go up exponentially because you have no obstructions.
Right.
You've got tower heights 200-300 feet up.
Right.
So it's even less of an issue there. This is a true full power macro band. This is
Yeah.
not a joke. Like C-band is legitimate. Like and you know how I knew Neville the Pebble was full of shit? Here's how I figured it out. T-Mobile spent the most per megahertz pop on C-band out of all the carriers.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
you mean to tell me you would be stupid enough to pay the most for something that you said sucks? Then you're an idiot.
because he knew that it would be decent, bro. That's why. Come on, bro. You know he knew.
But how do you speak out of both sides of your mouth though? How do you say that something is terrible and then you go turn around and buy it at the highest rate?
Because I bet you what they were trying to do is drive the price down. That's probably what they were trying to do. Think about it, bro. You got to think about
Belos, you can't
T-Mobile's a
drive the
big
price down
marketing.
on something that everybody knows is referred to as the Goldilocks spectrum.
I
I
know,
didn't call it Goldilocks, they did.
but this is the thing, bro. You know how they are, bro. If they can somehow talk crap down on something to be able to get it at a better deal, they or at least try to, they will. You know they are. They're marketing,
Mm-hmm.
bro. They're a marketing company.
Like the MIMO possibilities and like the beam forming on the spectrum is so good. Like, don't get me wrong, dude. N41 offers incredible downlink throughput. But there's something wrong with the uplink performance. It's not good.
You know why, right?
Well, I mean, there's
Because
some technical aspects, but I mean,
they're still
I
running it at 16 QAM. The
okay,
uplink.
Los, but that comes into play, right? It's part of the equation.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit there and make an excuse and say, oh, it's different qualms, so we got to be, mindful of that. No, I have to look at real world performance, and I can't sit here and pretend like uplink doesn't matter. It's very important. It's important to the home internet user. It's important to the mobile user. It's important to the content creator. It's important to, the person on the FaceTime, right?
Yeah, and why do you think Verizon and AT&T on the uplink is using 256 QAM? Makes a
I mean,
big difference.
I'm just happy that every single piece of hardware going up in my market is massive MIMO from AT&T and Verizon.
But the only thing I have noticed is Verizon's running 256 on downlink and uplink. The only thing I noticed, and I think it's just because they're waiting for a software update from the Nokia AT&T, they're running 64 on the downlink, but 256 on the uplink.
Okay, network nerds. So when is T-Mobile going to move N41 to N7 and move it all to FDD.
See, this
because
is why I keep saying
And
that.
when are
Yeah.
they going to fix all the fragmentation? When are they going to buy all the
the-
spectrum from the regional players and all the holdings
yeah.
companies? When are they going to buy it
And
all from the churches and the schools? When are they going to
oh,
deal with WCO? When are they going to get the spectrum from the FCC because of the
dude,
authority lost to the Congress? Like, look at all
they,
these freaking complications, bro.
look, dude, T-Mobile's pissed right now because they have to start paying rent to WCO for for I think a couple of the licenses that WCO bought from a local provider or local school or whatever.
Hey, so Landon, we get it. CBRS is TDD, but it's a downlink supplement. It's not carrying the mail on the network. C-band is.
C and C-band
Nobody's
is
leveraging
TDD
CBRS as
too.
the primary capacity layer. It's supplemental. You know,
You know that, right?
if I told you I bake cake, that would be the icing on the cake. It wouldn't be the cake.
You guys know that N77 is TDD, right?
But I don't understand, like, what's the technical issue here? Like, what are we really
There's
talking
no
about
issue with there's no issue with TDD. Everybody, because Neville the Pebble fed the thing saying that TDD this. There's no issue with it. If Verizon and AT&T have seen substantial uplink gain with N77, why hasn't T-Mobile with N41?
Well, they have, but
It's the same TDD
the
band.
the trouble, Los, the trouble is with distance. That's really the difference. When I'm 1 mile from a tower site in the urban and the suburban setting, the uplink fades on N41. I mean, Los,
And you know why, right?
I'm talking about it like a 90% difference.
You want to know what's the main reason why, right, Sneed? Especially in the urban and suburban, like you're saying.
Interference?
Thank you. Yeah.
I you know,
Interference
I
from all the Wi-Fi.
the signal is just getting, the noise. I don't know,
Yeah.
man.
It's terrible. There's too many Wi-Fi's at 2.4.
But this is why, to a certain extent, I'm happy that T-Mobile made the right decision to get some C-band and DoD. You know, they did some of that, and I think that fixes some of their uplink issues. Because,
Yep.
dude, this uplink performance is freaking magic on C-band. So if T-Mobile in my market has 40 megahertz of N77, my only concern is this: the network is very fast. When are they going to climb these towers again? 2026, 2027. When are they going to climb these towers that are doing 700 megabits per second today just to fix their uplink, after a half a mile?
They're still doing Sprint conversion, so I don't
Not
know.
here. That's more like rural Ohio. That's
Yeah, yeah.
outside of Vegas and Nevada. That's,
Shit, I wish.
I think they won't touch it unless they absolutely need to.
But that's my point, Moose. So my hope of getting good uplink performance a mile away from a tower site isn't for another couple of years at the very least. Why would they come back to climb a tower that's doing 700 megabits? I'm not going to blame them
Yep.
for not doing it. I mean, yeah, it'd be nice if they tended to it, but it doesn't make business sense, right?
Unless, yeah, I mean, no, they're not going to do it unless they have already exhausted every other opportunity.
I mean, they climbed every tower in the last 2, 3 years, upgraded, put radios, antennas, you got fiber. I mean, they did a lot here. My expectations have to be tempered because the network, generally speaking, is good. The real issue, if I had to pick one, I'm nitpicking, the uplink is suspect from range. Now,
No,
if
bro.
now Moose, if they would switch to a configuration where the N25 gets utilized for uplink, N71 contributes to that uplink, that could help, right?
Right.
Yeah. Damn, Steve. So you're saying that it works decent. Guess what, bro? So I've been testing T-Mobile a lot.
Oh
and I
god.
have it on my music phone in
Oh
the car
god.
with CarPlay.
Oh
And
god.
I'm gonna tell you this, bro. Why is T-Mobile the only one that buffers my damn music?
Damn.
Oh my god.
Bro, I be on the Google Meets, bro, and you guys be hearing it, bro. Out of nowhere, my music stops playing. It starts buffering and skipping and crap, bro.
Is that
Like, what
in
the
Vegas
hell?
proper or when you leave
Yes.
the
No, in Vegas proper, bro. When I'm like when I'm door dashing, bro, and stuff.
oh my god.
I'm like, what the hell, dude? The tower's right across the street from me. How the hell is it buffering?
So I don't really experience that often. It happens occasionally, but I mean that could happen on any carrier in my experience, but
It
you're
never has
saying
happened
it's
in any. It doesn't even. It didn't even happen when I had Sprint, bro. Native Sprint. Come on, man.
Okay, when you're listening to music, even high fidelity, 5 megabits per second?
Um, about 10. Let's just
10
say,
for high fidelity, hi-fi?
yeah, yeah. You want 10?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Let me tell you
Maybe-
this. The only way that T-Mobile is going to go back to those cell sites is during one of these massive natural disasters, and they have to replace equipment. So, like for example, right now, SoCal and Las Vegas are in mega warnings right now because of this Hurricane Hillary, Tropical Storm Hillary, right? If a cell site goes down because of the wind or whatever, and the antennas get messed up or radios get messed up, and they have to do a tower climb anyways, I'm pretty sure that's the only time that they'll do it. If the cell site is doing 800 already, why would you ever go back? You're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's my only concern is that the uplink will continue to be the weakness. Maybe it creates some issues in the future and they eventually have to tend to it. Who knows? Maybe
No, but
failed
seriously,
radios and
like
yeah.
there's literally no other justification to add C-band unless,
And in a market like
right?
Cleveland where they have
Right.
24% market share, they're not
Right.
motivated.
Now maybe in LA they are motivated, right? Like
Sure.
in Huntington Park where literally N41 is congested.
What's the uplink like in Huntington Park?
Oh, dude, it's crawling. Less than 10, less than 5 sometimes.
Yeah, they're gonna have to get that stuff going. You got to get the spectrum on air. It's gonna
Right.
work magic. 40 megahertz of uplink, right?
Well, so over here in Dallas, I have seen T-Mobile cell sites that have multiple antennas of N41. Now, I was questioning it, for a while. I was like, why would they have multiple? But then you start thinking because of their N41 is fragmented. So you would want to be able to broadcast at full power, right? Each slice, right? Each 40 or 20 or whatever they have, right? But here's the other thing too. They are putting in specific areas that they know they're going to have a lot of traffic. And I've had this conversation with both of you on this, right? If the cell site is close enough to the freeway, they should put every single carrier should put millimeter wave. And they have done that in some cell sites, T-Mobile. They've put millimeter wave.
Any sector that is able to take a millimeter wave antenna and reach a multi-dwelling unit, a shopping center, a strip mall, a school, university, uh, any place that serves as a venue for concert series, plays, sporting events, soccer stadiums, even local area high schools
Right.
should get a millimeter wave sector pointed in the direction of those facilities, including parking lots.
Hey, Sneed. Well, I can say T-Mobile put a millimeter wave facing the Fashion Show Mall on the strip
But there's
on
only
that
one
macro right
restriction,
there.
though. There's only one question. Can I get a 10 gig circuit to that site? If the answer is yes, a millimeter wave sector is imperative.
Hey, I'm not gonna deny it, bro. They're whatever they've been doing with millimeter wave recently is actually they're finally fixing those issues because now I can get like 2.5 to almost 3 gig on the down on millimeter wave with T-Mobile. So now
Right.
whatever they're doing, it's finally they actually are fixing that part. At least I can give them credit on that, bro. At least that's finally starting to get fixed.
But here's the thing, though, guys. Right at this point today, right? Will Verizon and AT&T put millimeter wave in macros that are close to freeways? I don't think they need to. They just got a massive bandwidth increase. Until C-band gets congested, will we start seeing millimeter
Moose,
wave?
what is congested for C-band?
Okay. So we've had this debate. Let me go back to the original. What is congested, right? Because that is the baseline, right? Universally, from every single carrier, if the cell site is quote unquote deemed congested, the sector has to be doing less or at 2 Mbps. Okay? So that's considered congested. If it's
That was the 4G LTE era.
correct. That is the standard for 4G LTE. If you're at 2 gigs or lower, you're congested. Because that means that you can't add more people to that cell site and they will have a consistent network experience. That's why, right? So from a 5G perspective, if you are below 40 Mbps, you are considered congested.
What do you think, Los?
That sounds about right. But you know how you guys are talking about the millimeter wave situation, not adding it in areas? Well, guess what, bro? I've been seeing AT&T adding millimeter wave in those same areas that you're saying
Right.
that shouldn't be. I've been actually seeing a lot of AT&T millimeter wave go up recently, and I mean
Yeah.
massive.
And by
Like
the way,
literally, it went from only 4 sections that I knew that had it
Los, what's the
to
market share
literally
for AT&T in Vegas?
about 3 miles now of millimeter wave,
What's the market share for AT&T in Vegas, Los?
like about 18-20%.
yeah, those millimeter wave are specifically for all the tourists, right? That come.
Yeah.
But I will say this though, guys, too. We're gonna start seeing a lot more C-band, C-RAN, C-band small cells, C-band
You got to split the cells, man.
gas.
You got to
Yep, we
do it.
have to. Now, and the reason why is because we're preparing for the World Cup 2026, baby.
Damn.
2026.
Yo,
We've
Moose,
talked about this.
I think this has to be its own podcast.
Yes. This is a hundreds of millions of dollars from all the carriers.
Multi-year preparation.
Multi-year preparation. Bigger preparation than even a Super Bowl. And everybody here, Los, Chacha, Sneed, we all know how much money goes into a Super Bowl. Imagine how much this is going to be for a World Cup.
Mega.
Bro, a World Cup, a football, a NFL Super Bowl will never be able to touch the amount of crowd to a World Cup ever.
No, never. We're talking an infusion to the United States for at least 2 months. Because remember, actually 3 months. 1 month before, 1 month after, because the people stay around. They do Disneyland, Disney World. They do Universal Studios, Universal over there in Orlando, right? They go see the sites in New York City, San Francisco, whatever, right? They go touring. They're tourists, straight up, right? We're talking about possibly 5 to 10 million more people, and all of them are on Instagram. All of them are on Twitter, X now, formerly known as Twitter, right? They're going to be tweeting. They're going to be posting. They're going to be doing all this
there's
stuff.
going to be live streaming. There's going to be all types of stuff. Breaking news. The StreamYard link is in the chat if you guys want to come onto the panel. Ask the panel, myself, Moose, questions, make comments, share some experiences. This is probably the best thing about the SMT Nation is the people. So let's get you guys involved. Hop on, say hello, ask a question, make a comment, tell us about what you've been seeing from the carriers, upgrades in different markets. Share those things with us. We'd love to hear from you all. I say it at the end of every video, right, Moose? The voice of the people, the SMT Nation. This is your guys' opportunity to do so. So link is active. It's in the description. It's in the live chat. Just click that open. enable your phone or whatever you're using to have access to the microphone. Try to be on a stable connection. If you got an external microphone or headset, that's always better and preferred. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you. All right, so it's there. We'll take one at a time. I'll try to be as judicious with time and rotating people as possible.
And by the way, sadly, right, Las Vegas is not one of the cities, right? Because that's an amazing stadium.
I'm
right?
shocked they didn't
I
get a
know.
game there, a cup game. That's crazy.
Exactly. At least one, 3 games, like a group stage. Because remember, the World Cup this year in 2026.
Columbus got a game, didn't they?
Let me check one more time. Hold on.
Where the Columbus Crew plays. So I think Columbus got games. I think there's some games in Florida and Miami. I think there's some games in Texas.
Definitely Miami. Yeah, definitely AT&T Stadium.
There's some games at MetLife in New York.
Yep.
See, Moose, they have to be able to accommodate. Big cities have accommodations. They have the hotels. They have the venues. They have the entertainment. They have the restaurants. They have they have those things. That's why I'm shocked. Vegas. I mean, it's built for the tourist. The city was built out in the middle of the desert for it.
So I have the page up right now. So we're talking Atlanta, right? Mercedes-Benz, huge stadium, massive, right? The CFP games are always there, or it's been there for a while. College football playoff, right? You have Houston, you have Dallas, Kansas City, out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, but Kansas City has an NFL-sized stadium that seats like 80,000.
Right, exactly. So it's about the capacity, right? They want to sell as many tickets as possible, and obviously, there's going to be a massive amount of tailgating too. So that's where it's like the infusion, right, to the local economy. Then you have Los Angeles, right, the 49ers Stadium, right, in Santa Clara. Then you have Boston, Miami, MetLife in the New York, New Jersey market, Philly, right? So
How about Houston?
Houston, yeah, huge. Houston is there, yeah. But I feel
those LA matches are going to be crazy, Moose.
I still feel like AT&T Stadium is going to house the final because that's 100,000 person stadium.
All I know, bro, is I'm gonna have to go to the LA one.
Oh yeah.
And you already know, bro. We're gonna be cracking some heads over there, bro. Because you know how soccer, you know how it goes with the World Cup, bro.
It's gonna be wild.
Like hell.
It's gonna be wild. I'll tell you this. And one of the things that people don't get, right, because it is an expansion up to 48 countries, right? We are gonna start seeing how our networks are actually prepared. Because a Super Bowl, to be completely honest with you guys, a Super Bowl is not a estimation of network capacity. Everybody's like, oh yeah, we're doing like a gig on the down, right? Or whatever, right? It's like, yeah, because nobody on T-Mobile goes to a Super Bowl. It's $2,000 to go to a Super Bowl or more, right? Just for the ticket. World Cup matches, if you buy them in advance, are only $50 to $100.
Question,
Those are the people. Go ahead.
Question.
Yeah.
What percentage of international travelers have mmWave capable phones?
Very little. Very little.
Very little, dude.
Super little. Like less than probably 5%. And I'm generous by saying 5%.
The only ones that will have it will be ones coming from either China, South Korea, or Japan. That's it.
Everybody else, Germany is all C-band, right? UK all C-band.
They're all going to have C-band. They're all going to have N77. That's not going to be the trouble.
Right.
But that is going to force the accelerated small cell build.
By the way, I don't think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think Europe uses N41 in their roaming.
The Middle East does.
The Middle East does, but I don't think Europe does. And you know that Germany's coming.
Yeah, Europe's a different band.
Hey, what's up, Zero Cool? What's happening?
Oh, snap. What up, Zero Cool?
What up, everybody?
They use it as what, band?
Hey, man.
They use it as band 7, right?
Correct.
Cool?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Band 7 is Canada as well.
But T-Mobile's not broadcasting N7. They're broadcasting N7 N41.
Ooh.
Right. I mean, what I'm thinking is once they get the white space auction licenses from the FCC, I have a feeling that they'll convert that over. Because if you think about what T-Mobile wants to do, it'd be really nice to just have. I mean, if you think about it, have a uniform band 7 and match Canada's or other countries' uplink on that, right? So that'd be nice to do it and have everything on FDD, eventually. So you just carry all the FDD spectrum all together. I think that's what eventually in the future what's going to happen. It's just going to take some time because what you can do on FDD versus TDD, on FDD you can do a couple things. Have the massive gigabyte MIMO across all of the FDD. You can't do that if you have a mix of the two. And you can actually, what's really nice about it is that you can, there's the intercell and the intersite aggregation. So for example, it's just exactly how a Verizon or AT&T would work, except you would have more high capacity with T-Mobile once everything is converted on an FDD, because you would have all the frequencies.
Yeah, but that's only important if you don't have the cell grid, right? So if you don't have small cells, if you don't have splitting going on, that would bring a neighboring cell into the action.
It would, yeah. I mean, you would have to convert everything over. So,
I think it's worth. See, here's the thing that I was talking to Zero Cool a while back, and we've had these conversations in the podcast as well. If T-Mobile was simply just going to upgrade their N41 to N7, that will be a dramatic speed increase immediately. You would notice it. It would be that big of a deal.
Right, because what
Well, it
you would
kept them
have
from
is
doing it after the merger, though.
well, it's a licensing issue, right? They won certain frequencies, and you would actually have say it's 64. It's 64 by 64, right? So what you would have on for example a 2.5 gigahertz signal is that you would upgrade that to 256 by 256. So you would have your uplink and downlink the same on a massive MIMO gear that's 256 by 256, right? So on FDD, if you think about what your throughput would be on a downlink and uplink, we're talking probably well, it's approaching 1 gig now. I think by what you can actually do, if you have everything on FDD, for example, plus your white space licenses, you could probably push that to almost 1.5 to 2 if you're lucky.
But so Zero Cool, here's my basic approach to this. Here's my process. Which network are most European customers, tourists, going to be connecting to when they come here?
Well, I mean, it's
when it comes to the roaming piece, are they going to be on T-Mobile, Verizon, or AT&T, and at what ratio?
Most of it's AT&T.
Yeah, the Deutsche
and then South America and then Latin America, where are most of those customers?
It's the same thing. It's AT&T, and the reason why that is because in South America you have your AT&T. Mexico.
So who's under the most pressure to get an upgraded network fully done in the next 2-3 years?
Well, it's not AT&T, I can tell you that. They're just kind of chilling with their fiber game. It's T-Mobile, and the reason, this is why this is a huge reason why they're constantly knocking on the FCC's door, right? If you think about, what they have to do with the spectrum that needs to be, it's like someone's holding the lock and key, right? So if someone's doing that, you can't get out of the jail free card, right? So they want that, they need it badly. They need that to do, and here's another thing I want to make mention. They need the white space.
Do we lose Zero Cool?
I think so.
Damn it.
That Northwoods connectivity right there.
What up, EM?
Right, yeah, intercell aggregation, but I'll be right back, guys.
Okay.
But here's the other thing, though, that Zero Cool was. I'm just going to finish his thought there, right? Deutsche Telekom, aka parent company to T-Mobile, right? Germany and all the German fans that are going to come, right? Because you know for a fact Germany is going to be in the World Cup, right? They're going to be all roaming on, if they're on Deutsche Telekom, they're going to be roaming on T-Mobile US, right? I had a buddy of mine who actually graduated here from Brown University, right? He lives now in Germany. He doesn't touch Deutsche Telekom with a 10-foot pole over there in Germany. He actually is on Vodafone, which is the #1 network now. They surpassed the incumbent Deutsche Telekom for the first time. Now, why is that interesting? Because Vodafone is very in line with Verizon. Very in line. Remember? Vodafone UK, the parent company, right?
Yeah.
They were the one who owned 50% share of, actually 49% share of Verizon US, right? So once Verizon bought out the 49% stake that Vodafone had, Verizon became whole again, right? Okay, here's something interesting that we got to talk about there, right? All these UK fans and everybody that uses Vodafone, right? They're going to be roaming on Verizon, you know, if they use Vodafone. However, you're right. The Zirku is absolutely right. AT&T is going to get the lion's share of all these roaming people, right? And that's why we're seeing now today C-band in DAS at airports, in stadiums, and in C-RAN across all of those 11 cities in the United States. I'm telling you right now, the networks that those stadiums are going to be around are going to be seeing an even faster upgrade in the next 3 years than you've ever seen before.
Yep. Bro, it's gonna be interesting. AT&T is gonna make massive roaming money. Massive.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, are they though? Like we just talked. You just said Vodafone, major partner with Verizon. Vodafone's acquiring smaller carriers across Europe. That means more customers are going to be roaming on Verizon. DT has their partnerships. I think that each
Yeah.
company has their little friends overseas.
But
Granted, AT&T might have the majority right now, but I think that that's
so
changing.
but this is the thing though. The thing that it comes down to is where's the mass influx of the World Cup like diehard fan? It's Germany, UK, and South America. Those are like the die of the diehards, like all Latin America. And Latin America is going to be coming in more mass scale. You're going to see more Hispanic population than you're going to see any other race at a World Cup. Period. And what partnership do they have in all Latin America? AT&T.
No, that's true. But I just go back to the 3 Vodafone merger that just happened in the UK. That's a very large chunk of their customer base, of the population. Those are 2 big carriers that are. I mean that was like effectively like Sprint T-Mobile here over there, and that is going to impact roaming numbers depending on what the agreements were prior to that merger. So it's
Hey,
worth considering.
Hey
Hey
DJ,
guys,
I'm gonna tell you
can we address this from Landon?
this.
He's saying that most roaming is LTE still.
No,
We
not
got a
on
problem.
AT&T.
We got a problem.
Not
I'm gonna tell you why. There's not a single carrier in the U.S. that can support that influx of usage on LTE. There's no bandwidth there.
hey Sneed, I'm gonna tell you this right now. No, it is not because I tested it. You can get like a free China SIM, and I tested it. It gives you like a gig of data, and it was roaming on AT&T 5G N77, no problem.
What spectrum is on the
It was
LTE side that could support that type of usage at a World Cup?
None. None.
The only carrier that would have a fighting chance
Yeah.
would be Verizon with CBRS. That's it.
Yeah.
or
We're talking
or LA maybe, but
right. But we're talking about an influx of hundreds of thousands of people around a stadium and at airports. Like I'm telling you, I'm shocked if they're not going to have 5G roam. No, it's 100% going to be 5G roam.
yeah, I mean that just takes FCC certifications and carriers to play ball with what the specifications are with the international model phones, which historically AT&T has been the worst with, but that's just something that they need to work on, I guess.
Yeah, international model phones when you're a domestic plan user, yeah. But when we're talking about roaming rates, and here's the other thing too that um, AT&T did that upgrade to their elite plan and performance plan, where you can roam in all of those 19 additional Latin America countries. That should signal immediately what's their like vision for international. I think they want to be the premier data roamer because T-Mobile is giving you 5 gigs internationally, right? And then after that, it's dropped to 128, maybe 256 kilobits, right?
It's freaking
What are,
slow.
Yeah, they
right.
nuked their international. I
Hey,
mean,
Moose, what does AT&T give you for that Latin America international, bro?
What if I told you the gig costs them $1?
God damn.
How do you feel about that company now?
I've said from the get-go, AT&T's international roaming is industry leading.
I mean, you're basically taking your phone and using it as you normally would.
Yeah, I mean, when I traveled overseas, I turned on the day pass and instantly just started using massive amounts of data just to see what would happen. Didn't hear a peep from AT&T about usage, so I was very, very impressed. Verizon needs to get their shit together with their international roaming plans, though.
They're uncompetitive. They're uncompetitive.
That's a lack. That's a miss right there. But, again, it goes back to remember Randall Stevenson's vision of the global carrier race? He was like, there's going to be only 5 global carriers. One of them's Vodafone. The other one should be AT&T. And then you have Movistar from the Latin America perspective because you have Claro in pretty much every single Latin American country minus
But the
Brazil.
thing is, Moose, is Verizon has the engineering, the know-how, the relationships to be one of those 5.
Oh no, but Chacha, it's not an engineering problem.
Well,
It's
they're
a
choosing not to
strategy
be,
problem.
actually. Right.
It's a strategy problem. They don't
Yeah.
want to incur all the costs or the negotiations between the other carriers because remember, look at what T-Mobile did. Because of Deutsche Telekom's presence globally, right? They didn't need to try that hard to get those roaming agreements internationally, right? Verizon has to build new roaming partnerships, and then they have to compete against AT&T and T-Mobile when the same customers from hypothetically Dominican Republic, right, the DR, come to US, right? They have to be able to give them a better rate or the same rate versus AT&T and T-Mobile. So what I'm saying is this. Verizon is definitely not the carrier, especially if you're Mexican American or Latin American in this country, because they don't give you the same roaming agreements as T-Mobile and Verizon when you go outside of the US. But for the World Cup, what's going to be unique is that, to what EM's saying, right? Vodafone is going to have a huge presence from their subscribers in Europe coming to US, right? That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's almost like we're back to pre Verizon Vodafone buyout, talks right now. I could see Verizon pushing for a partnership there internationally, just based on the past relationship that existed between those two companies, or maybe not. I think one of the big things that Verizon has taken advantage of in the last 10 years has been their independence as a company. So now that the international conversation is starting again, it might not hurt for them to open that door back up. But what's the deal with the second show, Sneed? I popped up my YouTube feed and I saw you were live again. What's this, round 2?
Well, when there's a moose sighting, you have to act. You have to respond.
Basically, the way that I pitched it to Sneed was like, look, I wasn't able to be there last night for unforeseen reasons. I wanted to chat about all these topics, right? We were talking about T-Mobile. We're talking about the spectrum from Dish to T-Mobile, or from T-Mobile to Dish. We're talking about the Internet Air product. We're talking about the World Cup and roaming. Man, there's been so many, and by the way, that should be its own podcast. You're honestly correct, man, because there's just so many details that we got to talk about. Because I still have a very deep, feeling that T-Mobile's not going to do anything different.
Yeah,
They're
but
not.
you're sleeping on Verizon, Moose. I'm telling you, they will be the infrastructure builders in those top 10, 11 markets that you're gonna have those matches.
Right. I hope, right, that
Well, ain't
Verizon.
gonna be no hope. They're in there.
I think that from a domestic perspective, Verizon is going to be amazing, right? In those areas. From an international perspective, to EM's point, right? Unless Verizon between now and 3 years from now gets the roaming agreements from the other countries when they come here, it's all going to be T-Mobile and AT&T.
But that combination of two networks, it would be speculation to say that they could handle it.
Yeah, I don't think that AT&T has enough capacity for all those people.
Not today. Not today.
No, not today. We're talking about millions, man.
A combined Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T has enough.
Maybe. Today, I don't know, man. I just think about what I'm saying.
Verizon has a very substantial millimeter wave build. But
Correct.
The problem is going to be the handset restriction for millimeter wave.
Correct. But that's what I'm saying, though, Chacha, is that right now, look at the people that are going to be flying in, right?
Moose, I think Verizon's DAS setups are as abundant or more abundant than AT&T's.
Depending on the city, like in New York City, yes, they're more abundant, actually.
Okay. I think the small cell build, I also side with Verizon having more in most of those markets.
Yeah, and most markets, probably
C-band,
Verizon does, yeah.
C-band bandwidth, there's more at Verizon.
Correct.
So I think Verizon has to be in play for this thing, man, for it to work.
It has to be, yes. It has to be. But that, again, it goes back to the roaming agreements from the other countries.
Moose, Verizon is the premier capacity network in those markets.
Right.
With the exception of Dallas.
Right.
But that's not to say they're a slouch in DFW either, you know.
No, but I have to call a spade with respect to what AT&T's done in Dallas. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, your issue is going to be handset certification from international. And then it's going to be what relationships Verizon decides to foster behind closed doors. I mean, this is all speculation right now.
Right.
It's not speculation. I mean, we're speculating on details, but these things are happening. I mean, these are conversations that go on for 2 or 3 years before the event.
Easily. Like, for example, I feel like Verizon EM is going to spend at least the same amount of money or slightly more amount of money than AT&T. Because just to give you a perspective, right? Every Super Bowl, let's just look at Super Bowl, right? So every Super Bowl, Verizon and AT&T spend easily on that market. Because remember, we're talking about every single hotel has to be upgraded DAS. Every single one. All the airport, more CRAN, even Cell Booster Pros, if it's like a, small area, right, that they have to do, right? So like the in-building solutions. Then you're talking about the macros in and around from the airport to the stadium, right? So if you take that approach, and each year they spend 80 million just for the Super Bowls upgrades, easily. Sometimes over 80 million, depending on what's needed, right? How much do you think they're going to spend between now and 2026 just on the World Cup cities?
Do we
Each
know what
carrier or
cities?
collectively?
Yeah, we have if you Google 2026 World Cup venues, there's actually a website from FIFA that tells you. We're talking LA, San Francisco, Houston, Dallas, Miami.
See, here's the thing,
Yeah,
Moose.
go
Those
ahead.
cities are already
Yep,
like densely populated.
right.
Let's infuse people that are basically going to be outside of their hotel room all day.
Right. I would say from, let's say, normal traffic right now, add at least 500,000 to each city
Can we talk
every
about what
day.
happened to Florida during the pandemic
Oh, yeah.
and Texas? How they got all these people moving from California,
Yeah.
and the networks literally tanked.
Yes.
Like Verizon was literally blindsided in Florida,
Yeah.
and you have to start permitting and stuff in order to upgrade sites. Verizon just now has recovered to an acceptable level in Florida. The network was under stress. I mean,
Terrell.
Verizon
Yeah.
outside of major markets, Verizon was mostly a macro network in Florida.
Yeah. Terrell mentioned that in Ocala and Orlando area. Yeah.
That's going to happen at these places without the preemptive build.
I'm thinking, just to give you, because I'm hoping that you can give me an estimate too. I'm thinking that between now and 2026, for all the World Cup cities, Verizon and AT&T are going to spend $1 billion in 3 years just on those cities. We're talking fiber upgrades, fiber expansions, C-RAN to C-band, C-band to C-RAN and DAS upgrades to C-band, as well as Wi-Fi, millimeter wave, and one more thing, right? We still haven't even talked about the 20 gig, 100 gig backhaul coming.
Exactly.
Exactly.
The lifeblood. Every single
Right.
one of these venues is going to need a 100 gig backhaul
100
circuit.
or more, probably 200, right? We need like double. Like if you think about the plans of just a Super Bowl, each DAS gets 100, right? What about when you have 100,000 people at AT&T Stadium, and then you have another 300 people tailgating because it's the final? That's insane capacity that's needed.
Companies like the one that AT&T just signed with at the San Francisco Rail.
Mhm.
What is their
BART.
name, that company?
The BART?
I forget the name of
yeah.
the company. They built a private network, and they're basically waiting for carriers to get on. AT&T's on there.
Yeah.
I think some of that has to happen too, Moose.
Everything needs to happen in 3 years, man. And unfortunately, there's not enough time to prepare. I mean, look at Qatar. Perfect example, right? Qatar took years for all that infrastructure planning
The
and all that
Brazil
stuff.
World Cup failed.
Yeah, it did. 100%.
Yeah, it failed. The investments go on for years before things happen.
Oh, yeah.
It has to be preemptive. No, you can't respond once it fails. It's over.
Right. It's done. And by the way, we're also talking about cows, right? There's going to be, and by the way, I should mention this too, guys. It's not just, don't think about it just the stadium. What about where the players practice, right?
The
The training,
facilities, the
right?
restaurants,
The
the
restaurants.
strips,
We're talking
the
about, yeah.
hotels.
The entire market has to be upgraded, not just the.
What about areas where things have to be secured?
And that's another thing.
What about the agencies and the governments, and the first responders?
We have to think about this from a market-wide upgrade, right? Because just to give you an example of Dallas, right? The fairgrounds where Texas and Oklahoma play the Red River rivalry, right? That's coming up next month. The Red River rivalry. It's so many R's, right? In that. That is going to be one of the practice stadiums for the teams, as well as Toyota Stadium in Frisco, right? That's going to be another practice. It's all online, by the way, where the practice stadiums and everything is going to be. So it's not like this is private information, right? FIFA is very open of where you're going to be able to see Argentina, Brazil practice, because the fans go and get the signatures. You know what I mean, Chacha? They go and they live stream. They start, broadcasting to their friends, buddies, families, their Twitters, TikToks, whatever, right? Their X, formerly known as Twitter, right? They start broadcasting. Every single one of these places is going to need C-band and millimeter wave. 100%.
The millimeter wave would be for the domestic users. All the LTE and the 5G stuff, for everybody.
Exactly. So
every frequency on every single antenna.
Everything. And by the way, first responders, again, right? They're going to need to have equipment. You know how emergency services and all that stuff, how they have like a bunker, right?
Yeah, but they're using like microwave backhaul and stuff. And
every single one of those cities is going to have a command center for every single game.
They have mobile command centers sometimes, Moose.
Right. And the reason why
like that whole ROG thing from AT&T, the ROG,
right,
and Verizon with the what's it called, the Thor,
right. You don't want a situation in an international event where millions of people, actually, I would say billions, not millions, billions of people are watching, to have a security failure. You got what I'm saying?
I got concerns about T-Mobile, man, in this whole situation.
Oh, damn. Talk to me.
Yeah, I got concerns, bro. Do they have the response team? Do they have the planning for this? Do they have the budget?
This is why I said from the beginning, Chacha, I don't think that T-Mobile is going to do anything different from what they're already doing today.
But we've seen their network fail at NFL games on weekends.
Look at what they did for the most recent Super Bowl as a perfect example of what they're going to do.
Some of that stuff is temporary and it's gone after the game.
See?
So happy you brought that up.
Yep.
So happy you brought that up.
So, EM, really quick, because I was asking you, but you were AFK. What do you believe is going to be the infrastructure cost, or not cost, the capital that Verizon and AT&T are going to be doing between now and 2026 to prepare for the World Cup?
Well, I mean, I think both AT&T and Verizon and T-Mobile, quite frankly, based off of what I've heard from people internally there, once the mid-band rollouts are done or mostly done, there's going to be a refocus and a shift back towards millimeter wave, because the carriers recognize that millimeter wave is necessary in these high density areas. And it just, I mean, the proof is in the pudding if T-Mobile's willing to go on a venture like that. And based off of the history and watching AT&T and Verizon build, I think that's going to be their main focus, is densification, small cells. They're gonna put in even more C-RAN hubs. That it's going to be a very costly venture, and I think AT&T and Verizon, if they're smart, will do it permanently. These are going to be permanent, fixed capacity upgrades for these areas, and I don't think T-Mobile has the resources, the field people to do it. And it just goes to show what they did with the last Super Bowl in Phoenix.
Exactly.
Temporary assets, temporary macros. I have a buddy who lives in that city, and he had temporary macros go up, or I guess mini macros, if you want to call them that, around his area from T-Mobile, and then they were gone 2 months later. Like, that to me is not a connectivity solution. That's a Band-Aid.
Ooh, I love the term Band-Aid. Chacha, what do you think about this? EM told you the real like reality of the situation. T-Mobile's not going to do shit. They're going to do temporary things.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of temporary solutions. I think temporary solutions as backups at the event, right? But there should be a standalone set of infrastructure that exists where it could handle 99% of the lifting. And then if you need to do colts, if you need to do cows, hit a parking lot over here, hit a show over there. Those should be nimble, those should be reactive. But the baseline infrastructure should be able to stand alone. And also, clean up after yourselves. We've seen T-Mobile leave like generators in parking lots for months after things have happened.
Bro,
Come back and get your shit and get the hell out of Dodge if you're going to be temporary with it.
hey Sneed, this is what I've noticed too. So every time that I go to a convention here, T-Mobile's the only one that sets up a temporary cell tower, a cow, like a macro cow, and then they take it down when the convention's done. Verizon and AT&T don't need it because they got indoor DAS solutions and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing. So I guess maybe let's not extrapolate that too much for temporary venues and fairs and places where I'm trying to think of an example.
But can we all acknowledge that the World Cup is basically a month long?
No, yes, but I don't want to make it sound like temporary solutions aren't adequate, because in most situations they are. For events and venues that see an influx of traffic for a weekend a year or 2 weekends a year, 9 times out of 10 that's fine. But for this situation in particular, and for like big sporting events that occur
We're talking about
semi-regularly.
Dallas. We're talking about New York City.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting to.
We're not talking
Like,
about like I don't know. Carlos, name a random city in the middle of Nevada.
Charlotte, right? Charlotte,
A
or
random city in Nevada where like randomly there's some event that brings 100,000 people to that place. Like they're not going to build a tower for that. So colts and cows make sense. But we're talking about Dallas. We're talking about Houston. We're talking about LA. So there is no way that temporary solutions are adequate. You know what I'm saying, Am?
no, yeah, and that's what I was gonna say too. Like, on top of that not being adequate, I mean, Moose knows. I'm sure you've got insight from people. The cost of permitting in big cities and the cost of construction in big cities is immense. So, getting those permits filed, getting stuff built in the cities for a temporary solution just to go and rip it down is literally like flushing money down the toilet.
it's ridiculous. It's all about perception. That's what they did. T-Mobile.
And yeah, and to me that's just lazy. I don't know. I see these cut corners, and it's really hard to justify spending money on that company when they do these things. They're not benefiting the customer at all.
Perfect example. This March, right, at Ultra Music Festival in Miami, Verizon and AT&T put CRAN in Bayfront Park 3 years ago in preparation of the Super Bowl that happened in 2021, right?
Okay, and how's it going?
Okay, and then we talked about this, right? In one of the podcasts immediately after I came back. It was flawless for both Verizon and AT&T because not only did you have multiple macros in that area, right? But the CRAN with millimeter wave offloaded dramatically, right? The macro network. T-Mobile only has one main macro and several other macros further away. And the entire situation tanked. Literally, it was dead. Doesn't even work. It with N41 fully maxed, by the way. So, is that what we're expecting, Sneed, Los, for a World Cup? That they're not going to do anything? I think this is literally what's going to happen.
No, they're going to do more of what they do, which is, you got your macros, you got all your spectrum on air. They'll pull up some of those temporary solutions to keep the network afloat in most places. But there will be moments where the network will be unusable. It will be like an NFL Sunday where some sectors bottom out.
Yep.
It's going to happen. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's going to happen much with Verizon. And I
Not
don't
at
think it's
all.
going to happen much with AT&T. If it happens, it's going to be the minority of the time, a small incident here and there. I think I think T-Mobile's going to struggle in most of these places with temporary only solutions. They better get this C-RAN thing going.
They can't. You don't have the personnel. I mean,
Then they're set up to fail.
I mean, you remember what I was talking to you about the other day? All the stuff I've been hearing offhand from the people I know.
So how are you going to do all that stuff and you got a plan for this?
That's the biggest question I have. You gonna rely on a contractor, a subcontractor? Like, come on, man, that's not networking. That's just it drives me up a wall.
I'm not
It
even
really does.
joking, dude. If I was Verizon, I would find a way to offer some kind of an eSIM plan, eSIM activation process portal for international travelers. You know, you're going to be here for a week. We got you. Flat rate, unlimited data, you know, whatever, $30, whatever, you know, for a week on the network.
By the way, you're talking about something that I've already discussed and it's already in the works. But let me tell you this. That Q2, Q3 of 2026 will be a massive increase in gross ads for all carriers. Because you just said it right there. Customers that are going to be here from international, that are going to be here literally for 2-3 months, right?
Yeah,
1
but
month
Moose,
before.
it's gonna be an asterisk on like the earnings call.
Well, it's going to be an asterisk, but they're going to see an infusion of potentially hundreds of thousands of customers of gross ads.
What does it do to the
revenues?
revenues?
The revenues are going to go massive up for those 2 quarters because
10% better than the previous Q over Q, or 10% better than the year over year. I should
year
say
over year, 10% to 20% max. I would say
shit.
20% because remember, we're talking about roaming rates are going to be massively up, right? The roaming charges from outside to you.
They're like 50% higher than standard rates.
And then you're going to have people that are going to be savvy and they're just going to be getting the eSIM plans that all carriers are going to be having by that point in time. Ding, 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 ding. So, right, that's the key is that if you're going to be here for 2-3 months to support your country and do a bunch of
treating it like
things.
A vacation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
So you're going to do a massive vacation, right? And by the way, people do that, right? A couple of buddies of mine, they bought a week, a travel to go to Qatar, right? And they were there just for the games. They visited a couple of places.
Bro, what the hell is Qatar, bro? It's Qatar.
Qatar, yes. Exactly. So they went for a week, spent some money over there. They didn't need an international SIM. However, my other buddies, they stayed the entire World Cup. They actually did get a SIM, local SIM there. See? So this is why I'm saying that all of this is going to come ahead, right? T-Mobile is not. I honestly don't think T-Mobile is going to do anything other than temporary solutions, right?
Their network's going to tank.
Their network is going to tank and a lot.
We just said that they were one huge piece to the international roaming access. Their network is going to tank.
Their network is going to tank in Dallas just because the simple fact of how many locations they need to support, right? Just to give you an idea, they're going to have to support even universities that they currently don't have macros at. And the reason why I'm talking about the universities, that's where the training facilities are going to be for the countries, right? We're talking about, just to give you an idea, right? 11 cities, 48 teams. 48 teams. AT&T Stadium might have, over that month period, between 5 to 10 games, right? Over that month long. Because remember, there's group stage, right? Then you go, now with the 48 teams expansion, I think that they're going to be doing like more than just the Sweet 16 and then the 8 and then the 4 semifinals, right? And then the final. I think they're going to do like they're gonna do like NCAA March Madness, right? Where they have multiple brackets going at the same time, you know, and it's gonna be by region, right? So the West region, the East region, in terms of stadiums, and then then the Central region. Because I noticed on Wikipedia they grouped them by region. So they're gonna be doing like NCAA type bracketing system, right? So, anyways, dude, we're talking about multiple games per stadium. And as the month goes on, right, a lot of teams are going to be left behind, which will eventually reduce the amount of traffic on the network, right, over the course of the month. But there's still going to be, like, for example, Brazil, right? We anticipate that Brazil is going to be going to easily the quarterfinals, right? Easily the quarterfinals. So you can anticipate that the bigger teams with the biggest fan bases are still going to be in the United States.
Okay, so Brazil,
Yep,
Germany,
possibly. They got
Italy,
out of group stage list last time. Italy, yes, is going to be in.
France,
France is huge. Mbappe, right?
yep,
Dembele, right?
Netherlands.
Netherlands is huge, right? England, right?
Yeah.
Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
huge, man. We're
Well,
talking.
we got matches in Mexico. We got matches in
Yep.
Canada
We
too.
have matches in Mexico, matches in Canada, right? But Mexico alone, just to give you an example, right?
Mexico
When
City still have like 20 plus million.
Yeah, Mexico City has 22 million people.
Oh my god.
Mexico, the team, is going to bring in just okay, as a perfect example. When Mexico played Nigeria here at AT&T Stadium, I was there, right? There was a massive amount of people tailgating, and it wasn't even that big of a game. It was just a random CONCACAF qualifying, right? There was massive. It was probably like 25,000 people tailgating with the entire 100,000 seat stadium in AT&T Stadium completely filled to capacity. All Mexican fans, pretty much, right? That gives you an idea if it's the World Cup final and you see France or you see Spain, or these big teams, dude, it's going to be massive.
What's going to be the impressions of all those European, South American travelers, whomever makes it to the US for these matches in North America? What are they going to be? What's going to be the walkaway impressions of the T-Mobile network, the AT&T network, the Verizon network when it's all said and done?
Yeah, let me hear from you on this one. I'm very curious on what you're going to say.
I mean, in general, these people are coming from more densely populated urban areas that have had reasonable relatively fast connectivity in their cities for a long time. So I think our expectations are going to be high.
You've traveled a bit in the last couple of years, so you kind of know, right?
Yeah. I think that the people, especially from the EU, are going to be expecting what they have at home, and there's going to be two carriers that can offer a resemblance to what they have at home. Just to be blunt.
And they're not going to get it. Guaranteed. If it's T-Mobile and the Europeans are going to come in mass, right? We just said the top Euro teams. Portugal's probably going to be there. Italy's definitely going to be there. They're hungry to get back into the World Cup, right? They're one of the top teams from a overall winning standpoint, right? Germany, Spain, Belgium, Netherlands, Poland, England. We might even see a massive increase in Ireland representation, right? Because they're probably going to be in the World Cup. Who did I miss?
Moose.
Yeah, go ahead.
Moose. If we ask Ulf today, what are you doing to prepare for the World Cup?
Mm-hmm.
If we ask Pascal, if we ask the new Verizon network chief, what are they doing today to prepare for this preemptively?
Okay, here's something that I know. It's kind of like not a secret, but it's like kind of like oh damn. As soon as FIFA not guaranteed, but as soon as the bidding was done and FIFA confirmed that the U.S., Canada, and Mexico will host the 2026 World Cup, that's when they immediately, not all, Verizon and AT&T started planning, what are we missing from a capacity perspective to support they were actually they're trying to build over capacity of an additional 1 million people per city constantly on the network. That's what their goal is, an additional 1 million people. Okay. I think it's going to be closer to an additional 5 million, depending on the city. Okay. Just FYI, right? Because if you think about it, right, how many people are going to be flying in?
People are
Domestic
going to be
flight-
traveling from
Yeah.
states domestically. People are
Yep.
going to be traveling national.
Yep.
People are going to be traveling international.
Right. Exactly. There you go. You have multiple different things that you have to consider. The domestic people, right? Because the
And
U.S. is
whoever's
going to
there,
be
Moose, is going to be out, right? Whoever
right
lives there
out
is
and
going to
about.
be out. Yeah.
They're going to be at the events, right? The fan events need to have capacity either from CRAN, a macro, or a temporary solution, right? And by the way, I've already seen the AT&T version of this thing. AT&T is not doing any temporary solutions. They're going to be doing FirstNet, Colts and all that stuff for the first responders. But we're talking about permanent solutions here. Permanent. Upgrades to the DAS, all hotels in the greater 100-mile radius. Because that's how many people are going to be coming in, man. Like people are going to be in a hotel in San Diego, but they're going to go to the game in LA. You get what I'm saying? Like we're talking massive here, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
This is crazy here. Like the amount of people that are going to be coming in. Okay. Then you also have to take into consideration that a lot of these people have family members that live in those cities already. So the suburban and urban core is going to be filled up even more, right? So the fan events, they're going to be spaced out across the city. Then, like I mentioned, right, some universities are going to be having the training facilities. Some minor stadiums or smaller stadiums than the main stadium are going to be hosting the training camps, right, to prepare the players. And also keep in mind, the countries arrive about a month before the first game to get acclimated to the climate. That's another thing that we got to mention, right? Is that Germany is going to be coming in like May timeframe, June timeframe, when it starts in June, July, right? The first game, right? And why is that important? Because that means that their fans, their families, the team, the whole show, right? Everything is going to be in country a month prior. This is big, man. Got to go ahead, Ian. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, to your point, that requires significantly more timeline planning and capacity upgrades happening even earlier, because they have to anticipate the teams and the staff members and the media, especially the media, really. The carriers have to start looking at this today or yesterday, really.
Well, I'll tell you this: AT&T has been planning this for months already. Months.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that they're doing permanent solutions too, because
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good look from Verizon when they announced that about the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that going forward, these companies would be smart to do that, just given the cost of construction going up and the cost of permitting and all of that stuff. I mean, the amount of red tape in telecom is almost unbearable, and I still cannot believe that there are companies willing to put up temporary macros and then rip them down, spend all that money just to have it go away. I don't know.
Because of OpEx, they'll just move it somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
It's like rental gear.
They don't have to pay the capex, right? There's the differentiation in monies, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to pay the capex increase
Yeah.
their CapEx spend. And by the way, that's EM. I'm still waiting on an answer from you of how much do you think Verizon and AT&T will be spending between now and 2026 just on the World Cup cities?
I think we're looking at multiple billions, depending on the needs of those cities. I
I
mean,
think the baseline is each company is going to spend on their own at least $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, you're talking about cities that already have pretty mature millimeter wave networks from
Right, but we're
both
talking about a dozen
carriers.
cities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not going to be as capital intensive as I think we may think it's going to be. Because that's the thing about telecom infrastructure, right? Once you have stuff in place,
Yeah, we're
it's
talking about 3
very
years, EM.
but it's very easy to build off of your existing infrastructure that you already have versus starting fresh.
Yeah, but Verizon's going to be installing more fiber,
More
and
fiber, more,
so is AT&T, and it's going to be hanging more and more antennas and building and engineering and designing more DAS. And
Mm-hmm.
I just think it adds up over 3 years.
it will, and it depends on like the age of those DAS systems in those stadiums too,
Mhm.
Oh,
right?
because then it needs full replacement and stuff.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
and a lot of times, and this is something I learned listening to another industry podcast that I listened to. So a lot of times those DAS systems are put in by the venue owners or the
Mhm.
building owners themselves.
Mhm.
And if those aren't up to snuff, I don't know if that
Mhm.
if the venue isn't necessarily willing to front the capital to get that DAS upgraded,
Mhm.
it's going to be a question of, okay, are we going to see potentially a partnership between the carriers to split cost? Because a lot of times they ride the same DAS systems anyways.
Mhm. Neutral
But
host DAS. That's what you're talking about. Neutral host
exactly, yep.
versus primary carrier or
The neutral
primary. Yeah.
the neutral host piece is big, and I also think ORAN is
Yep.
going to be important for all this. I really do. I think this is the perfect opportunity to show that shit works.
The other thing that we also have to take into consideration is that T-Mobile might not be wanting to pay in to the neutral host DAS systems. So that's going to further complicate the situation, right?
So the network fails, and it's because they were cheap and they didn't want to get on the bus.
Exactly. Like, for example,
Mhm.
guys, AT&T Stadium. I've already told you guys this multiple podcasts ago. T-Mobile literally is unusable inside the stadium. Straight up. Doesn't work because they don't have an in-building solution there. It's only Verizon and AT&T. That's it. This is terrible. So if the World Cup final is going to be at AT&T Stadium, T-Mobile is done already.
Yeah, I don't want to hold my breath on them though, because I've heard um, through my connect at T-Mobile that um, they're starting to open up the pocketbooks when it comes to getting into those venues. Like, they paid Verizon to hop on their DAS at Lambeau Field up in Green Bay.
Mm.
That's worth a little bit of a golf clap.
Mhm.
Getting inside that venue. So
Well, the reason why that's good is because that means that more is coming. If
Right.
they've pulled the trigger on one, you can expect a second and a third and so on.
exactly. I guess it just depends on how willing they are to work with the other carriers, and I historically T-Mobile hasn't. They tend to be very bullheaded compared to the rest of the industry, and that's just the way that they roll.
Mhm.
Uh,
But you're
I
talking
mean,
about a company that won't do business with MVNOs.
Terrible.
They selectively choose their MVNO because they don't want to enable a competitor.
you're
And
talking about a company that doesn't want to pay their contractors either.
Jesus.
I've
Still?
heard, dude. I'm telling you, I hear it all the time. Like,
they move for such a big company. They move very strangely. Like most of the time when it comes to business, you do business with other entities when you'll win. But the other company doesn't have to lose for you to win. Both companies can win in a partnership or an arrangement. That's an ideal business transaction, actually. T-Mobile does not want to enable anyone else, even at the cost of them winning. So they're the company that will cut off their nose to spite their face. It's unusual. They can win in certain types of transactions, but they choose not to partake because it would involve another entity winning as well. Shit is weird, man.
Terrible.
It's really weird. And the thing is, uh, they've burned so many bridges over the last, I'd say, 3 years in particular, getting this build out
They
done.
make trouble with regulators, dog.
They make trouble with regulators. They make trouble with with
With
local
DC,
carriers,
with
with
Congress, with the FCC. They toe the line, bro.
and it blows my mind that there has not been some sort of action taken towards that. But it is what it is.
How long is that little guy thing going to be able to? How long is that little guy card going to keep getting pulled out?
I
They're
can't
not
do
even
it
little.
anymore.
They're not even little.
They have more customers than AT&T.
Right.
Well, that's my point. Is I mean, even from like the social aspect, like within the community, it's always like, oh, they're the new guy, they're the little guy. Like, how long are you
They're
going to keep
not
saying this?
the little guy anymore.
No, and then they'll cry wolf about how AT&T and Verizon aren't playing fair or whatever.
How do you
That's
guys
what I
how do
see
you guys
happening.
think they've treated Dish? What do you think about that?
Oh, don't even get
Terrible.
me started. Don't even get me started.
It's like brother against the littlest brother, even though the little brother got older and much more powerful, right? It's ridiculous. But I will say this, though. I'm glad that Lambeau was the one that you talked about, Ian, because Lambeau is going to be a World Cup venue. So that at least they're going to have a DAS at Lambeau, right? But AT&T Stadium, nothing.
But again, that's just the stadium.
Right. That's just, yeah, you're right. That's just the stadium, but there's more to the stadium, right? Like, I'm pretty sure that at MIT or at Cambridge, right? No, sorry, at Harvard or at MIT in Cambridge, they're going to have the training facilities for the World Cup teams that are going to be playing at Lambeau, right? They're going to have to fly, to multiple different venues, right? Just like they did in Brazil, right? They had to fly and then they have the venue, the location, et cetera, right? So,
Wait, Lambeau's a venue?
Yeah, Lambeau, Boston is a World Cup city. Yeah.
No. Lambeau's in Wisconsin.
Lambeau is.
Oh, sorry. You're right. Green Bay. Sorry. We're talking about Fox. What's it called? Gillette Stadium, right? Isn't that
Are they hosting?
isn't
Yes.
Gillette Boston, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Gillette's Boston.
Yeah, Gillette. Okay, yeah. So Lambeau's not even in discussion here. Sorry, I apologize. Lambeau.
No, I was just using it as an example.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Lambeau is not even a World Cup city, so it's irrelevant for the situation that we're talking about here, right? But thankfully, Lambeau is involved in terms of a DAS system, right?
Yeah, because on Sundays it was probably bad.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you got they're hosting the NFL draft up there, and various other things are starting to come to Green Bay in regards to the NFL. So I was just using that as an example, as T-Mobile is starting to open up the pocketbook to get into these in-building solutions that are pre-existing. So there could be a chance that they're willing to play ball with these World Cup cities, but I still have my tinfoil hat on. Respectfully, I don't have faith in that company whatsoever. But
damn, even if EM is saying that, Chacha, this is this is so sad.
Well, EM understands what it takes to do this type of stuff, so
yeah,
he gets it.
They give their field people 250 plus sites to take care of. You can't really maintain a network, but
damn. But anyways, definitely, Chacha, one of these days we're gonna have to go in depth, right? Soup to nuts, like they say in the industry.
I think what we do is we wait for some of it to start getting built.
Yeah.
And when we start getting indications of carriers getting active within the venue reach, then we know it's happening,
Right. So I guess this is a call to action for the community that if you see infrastructure being upgraded near and around an airport in those 11 cities in the US or around the stadium, that is all towards the World Cup. It has to.
Don't look for macros to be built here. The macro thing is done.
Right.
These areas don't need macros.
talking about CRAN, small cells, in-building solutions, DAS in hotels, at train stations, at the airport, increases in millimeter wave, C-band in CRAN, right? Those are the things that we're looking for. You know,
Thanks, Moose. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming
anytime.
on, hanging out with us. EM, Carlos, thank you guys for coming through. Zero Cool popped in for a minute.
Yep.
Hashtag replay crew, hashtag 2live crew, hashtag mod squad. Hit me with your favorite hashtag, folks. Thanks to JM for the coffee. And if I missed any super chats, guys, I do apologize. But thank you for supporting the channel, especially my members and patrons. Y'all are the goats. And we out this piece. Have a good Saturday. Peace.
Later.